Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Became the Dragon of Darkness and Bring Peace in World movie. Before we start, please go support Soprong for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Meet the story of a young student who seems normal, but is actually destined to achieve peace between factions and even dimensions. I clarify that this is my first story, so there is a chance that this is weird. Prologue. Start. In the distance you can see how a magic circle is fading away next to some people, one of whom can be seen to be a woman who is screaming desperately. She is looking at a black-haired man who is holding a blue sword. This person is looking at a gigantic dragon which did not look like it wanted friends. The black-haired man raised his sword towards the dragon and said, "Very well, beast of the apocalypse, now it's just you and me. So I swear this will be your grave." Without wasting time, the black-haired man launched himself at the dragon. But our story doesn't begin here. This story goes back 2 years in England. 2 years ago, we see how a blonde is sleeping peacefully when a not very friendly voice is heard. "Issei, wake up! It's late and the flight is going to leave you!" Sorry if I made a mistake with the exclamation points, but I didn't remember how Ivan did. At that, the blonde falls out of his bed in surprise and a little sleepy gets up, showing blue eyes that transmitted sleep. What happened? Why is he screaming? Votiso. At that, he looks at the clock and sees that it is 8:50 in the morning. When he saw the time, he opened his eyes wide and got up quickly. "It can't be that I'm asleep. Damn, where are my clothes and my suitcase? I don't give a damn." Female voice. "Issei, what was that?" "That's not the way a prince speaks. Act like one." The blonde, a little nervous, quickly looked for his suitcase, got dressed and went down as quickly as possible. He arrived at a large dining room with several paintings with different tastes in art. The blonde took a place at the table and immediately several butlers began to put breakfast on the table. He prepared to eat quickly but then received a blow to the head from a woman. "First you fall asleep, then you don't speak with class, and on top of that you go downstairs without greeting your family, and you start eating like crazy. Your parents would think about you." Issei, "Sorry, aunt, but I definitely have to hurry since the flight leaves at 9:30. Issei's aunt, "You should have thought of that before staying up all night playing. But hey, there's no time to scold you. Hurry up and have breakfast and go say goodbye to your grandmother." Issei, "Okay." At that moment, a little girl with blonde hair and blue eyes appears. She approaches the blonde and begins to pull at his pants, making the blonde look down. Issei, "What happened, Rita?" The blonde man looked at the little girl with a smile that the girl liked to see, and she proceeded to ask him something. "Rita, cousin, why are you going to study in Japan? It's not supposed to be that far from home." Issei, "Well, little one, I'm going to Japan because that's what my parents, may they rest in peace, and my uncles wanted me to go study there." Rita, "Okay, but which academy are you going to?" Issei, "I'm going to Ko Academy." Rita, "But that academy isn't supposed to be exclusively for women." Issei, "I know, but they just announced that it was going to be mixed now, and well, they didn't waste a moment." Rita, "Okay, now it makes sense." Issei, "Well, I have to go now. I'm going to say goodbye to our grandmother." "Behave yourself, Rita, no mischief." Rita, "Okay, take care, cousin." At that point, the blonde man goes to the dining room to greet his grandmother, who is none other than Queen Elizabeth of England. Issei, "Grandma, I'm leaving now." "Queen Elizabeth, you're leaving so late." "Well, what can you do? Be careful and remember that wherever you're going, there might be demons around. They shouldn't know you're a prince, much less that you're a vampire. Got it?" Issei, "Yes, Grandma, don't think I've forgotten." Queen Elizabeth, "Okay, in that case, go now. It's 9:05 and it's already late." Issei, "It's already 9 o'clock. I'm leaving now. See you later, Grandma." Queen Elizabeth, "See you later." At that moment, a blonde man runs out as fast as he can to a carriage. This carriage leaves the castle as quickly as possible in order to get to the airport, which didn't take more than 10 minutes since all the carriages moved aside. At the airport, you can see a blonde man walking up to one of the airport workers to ask about the flight to Japan. Issei, "Good morning, do you know which aisle takes me to the plane that goes to Japan?" Worker, "Of course the hallway is." Prince Issei, "Issei, thoughts, there we go again." Worker, "Please allow the guards to take you to your first-class flight." Issei, "Okay." The blonde's face showed a fake smile since he didn't seem very happy. Issei's thoughts, "I wish they wouldn't use so much formality with me." After the blonde had been guided by some guards on his flight, the blonde decided to sleep a little longer since it was going to be a long trip. After a few hours, the blonde boy had gotten off the plane and taken a taxi to his apartment, which his family had paid for. After arriving, he packed up his things and went to buy the boys' co-academy uniform. He watched television and got something to eat, since classes were starting the next day. The next day, a blonde boy can be seen heading calmly toward co-academy. Along the way, he saw several boys and girls wearing the same uniform as him, which helped him get there. The blonde boy had stood there looking at the academy for a moment, and it was clear he was thinking about something. Thoughts. I wonder why my parents wanted me to come to Japan to study. At that point, a woman's voice can be heard shouting at him. Careful, Issei, but what the hell? He couldn't finish the sentence as he was hit by a bicycle. Despite being a vampire, his face reflected that the blow had hurt him. He fell to the ground and the woman who was on the bicycle approached him to see how he was. Are you feeling well? The blonde, stunned by the blow, began to focus on a redhead with 2 braids and blue eyes. You could see that her breasts were developing since they were small. After recovering a little from the shock, the blonde was able to respond to the redhead. Issei, yes, I'm fine, face a little in pain, sorry, but I just got distracted looking at a clothing store and didn't notice you were in front of me. I'm really sorry. Issei, don't worry. The blonde man began to get up with the help of the redhead when another young woman with black hair, violet eyes, and breasts a little bigger than the redhead's approached. Rias, I told you to be careful, you'll look ahead. Rias, sorry Akeno, but I couldn't help it. At that moment, the brunette saw the blonde. She licked her lips a little. The blonde noticed this and got a little nervous. Akeno, well, who's that handsome guy? Hello, let me introduce myself. I'm Akeno Himejima, and the girl who ran you over is my friend Rias Gremory. The already identified girl lowered her head slightly as she was ashamed of what she did. Issei, gladly, my name is Issei Winchester. He almost gave me away with my last name. I don't know if they are demons, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Akeno, I can tell from your last name that you're a foreigner, although it was also obvious from your hair. I see you also go to the same school as us. What a surprise. Rias, Akeno, we have to go. Classes are about to start. Akeno, you're right Rias. It was a pleasure meeting you Issei-san. Issei, likewise. At that, the redhead picked up her bike and continued on her way to the academy with the brunette. The blonde watched them walk away, and Issei continued on his way with a few words. Issei, first day and I get run over by a girl. Sigh, nice start to school. Chapter 1. Getting to know each other. After that first encounter with 2 of his academy classmates, the blonde dedicated himself to heading towards the academy without stopping to avoid another accident. Once inside, the blonde went to his classroom, which was first beware to his surprise. The 2 girls he had previously met were there. The blonde even took a step back and checked the classroom door to see if he had made a mistake, but indeed that was his classroom. The girls realized that the blonde from a moment ago was in the same classroom as them, which the brunette, upon seeing the blonde again, began to scare away the other boys to be able to save him a spot next to her. At that, the brunette caught the blonde's attention by showing him that there was a spot next to her, which made the redhead nervous since the blonde was going to be close to them. The blonde began to look for other spots, but when he saw that the other spots were already occupied and others were set aside, the blonde looked at the spot where the 2 girls were. Issei thought since Issei ended up sitting next to the black-haired girl, she looked very happy because he had sat next to her. Again she had licked her lips just by looking at him, which caused the blonde to feel very uncomfortable. Issei thought this is going to be a long day. The classes started with the typical introduction of the students, which luckily for the blonde, after introducing himself, most of the boys looked at him with a face that said, I'm going to kill you! And others who were very few looked at him with the same face as the girls, that is, an I love you, which for the blonde showed a sarcastic smile that said, I love my life. The classes began, and as they progressed the blonde noticed some details about the 2 girls. Both were smart. The brunette several times stared at him with a smile that conveyed, I'm going to eat you. On the other hand, the redhead also looked at him, but only a few times. He realized that she was very shy and that apparently she needs glasses to see. Issei thought, well, that explains why he didn't see me. When classes ended and it was time for recess, the first to leave was the blonde. The brunette was going to talk to him but didn't even have time to turn around and look at him. After a few minutes, the blonde was carrying his tray of food. He couldn't see anything in front of him since his tray was practically a mound of food. As if his day was the best he ever had, he bumped into the same redhead who had run him over, and on top of that he wasn't wearing his glasses. He showed a sad face since he saw all his food fall. The redhead was embarrassed and quite nervous. Rias, Issei-sama, I'm persor thy spleend it with intent Ionov. The blonde put his hand on her head. Issei, calm down Rias-san, I can go get more food, just don't walk without your glasses. Rias, yes you are right. She put on her glasses and continued walking. The blonde stared at the redhead and gave a small sigh. Issei, because she's so shy and on top of that because she doesn't wear her glasses. Well, what can you do? Looking at the floor, well, let's clean this up because it's too much for the janitors. After having cleaned all the food that was on the floor, he could look at Rias from a distance. He could see that every time she tried to talk to other girls they rejected her, which made the redhead sad. The only girl who approached to talk to her was Akeno. The blonde decided to join the two girls for two simple reasons. One, because he didn't like how they rejected Rias, and two, because he was alone. Issei, hello girls, how are you? He approached them with a smile. Akeno, hello Issei-san. Rias, hello, Issei. He wanted to know if he could be with you. Akeno, of course come. The blonde boy had sat down with the two girls. Akeno was very happy but the redhead was still nervous. Akeno, well Issei, why don't you tell us something about yourself? Issei, from me? Akeno, if you already know what you like and what you don't like, favorite food, things like that. Issei, well, let's see, what I like are animals, mainly birds. What I don't like is when people use too much formality with me. I don't like it. When it comes to food I like ravioli. Akeno, well that's good to know. Issei, and you like Akeno. Akeno, that's a girl's secret. Winks. Issei, okay, women's secret, eggs. Issei, and you Rias. Rias, hey, this one is the same. Issei's thoughts, same as? Normally the conversations that the blonde had as the days went by were the same. They would ask him something and when he asked them they would always answer the same. After 2 months he no longer had the need to ask his tastes. Rias spent her free time reading manga. The blonde followed her once, and could see that she always read them hidden from the others. Akeno on the other hand had more sadomasochistic attitudes. In her free time she also read manga but unlike Rias people did not approach her because of the sinister faces she had since the mangas she read were quite sadistic. After a few days of following Rias the blonde came up with an idea. Rias, going out together a little blushing. Issei, well, I thought it was a good idea. Besides, I don't like you to stray too far. Consider this as a way to get along better with people. Rias, okay. The two young people after classes went out together. The blonde had decided to take the young woman to a manga convention where Rias was happy since she was able to meet more people and make friends who liked the same mangas as her. The blonde was by her side the whole time to give the girl confidence to be able to talk to more people. They left the conversation late since Rias had entered a contest for her favorite manga. And if that weren't enough, Issei was there in the middle of the contest with the face of I don't know what these guys are talking about. Issei, well Rias, I'm glad you were able to spend time with more people and even make new friends. Rias, yes you're right I really enjoyed coming here, thanks Issei-kun. Issei's thoughts, what a surprise she was able to speak without embarrassment, or stuttering. Issei, I'm glad you like it, well let's go, I'll take you home. Rias, okay. When Issei and Rias were heading towards the redhead's house they heard the voice of an older man. Wow, we have here 2 boys alone at night and one of them is the heiress of the Gremory clan. Today is my lucky day. Issei, but what the hell? The blonde couldn't finish because he saw how the strange subject had thrown a spear that seemed to be made of light. The spear was going in the direction of the redhead who froze. Issei seeing this quickly pushed the girl so that she wouldn't hit him with the spear. Sound of meat being nailed. Rias saw that her friend had been pierced by the spear and was in shock. Stupid human, why do you interfere? Well, at least now I'm rid of witnesses. Issei, Rias listened to me trying to get the spear out no matter what happens no. They had stuck 2 more spears into his chest. This one falling Koka up but even he was still able to say something. Issei, don't be afraid, everything will be okay. At that point it was clear that the blonde man was no longer showing any signs of life. The redhead was in shock. She had just seen how her friend died. She started to cry. The man in front of her was laughing. Ha, human trash. I thought everything was going to be okay and I thought they could even leave. How stupid. Well, I left me alone with the redhead. Now it's your turn to die, girl. Chapter 2 Revealing Secrets. Rias was frozen after seeing how her friend had died in front of her. The worst thing was that on top of that the man who killed her friend was now going to kill her. The redhead began to regain some of her mobility but was affected and froze again as the blonde's body began to fade as if it were ash. This left her even more scared but even the man in front of her was also surprised to see this. On his face you could see that it was the first time he had seen this. Well, what does it matter, now you will die, heiress of Gremory. At that the man had thrown a spear at the redhead. She closed her eyes waiting for the inevitable, but the spear never reached her. When she opened her eyes, she and the man were surprised since the spear was suspended in the air as if someone had grabbed it. At that the spear changed direction and went straight to the man's head, which he barely managed to dodge. But what did you do wrong, Puff? In that you could see that someone had hit him in the stomach. The redhead was confused, but that confusion went away and was replaced by a face of happiness and tranquility. In front of the subject someone began to materialize through ash. In a few seconds you could see a young man in front of him. It was the blonde, who then kicked him in the face and turned to look at Rias. Issei, I told you that no matter what happens, don't be afraid. Everything will be okay. Now go to a safe place. I'll take care of that guy. Rias was worried because the blonde was going to fight the guy who previously pierced him with spears. Rias, but Issei, he is a fallen angel. Issei, an angel? At that the said angel spread his wings to escape. Issei, no damn crow, you will not leave. At that Issei spread some wings with the appearance of bats with a brown color. These wings are like those of a flying fox, and launched himself against the angel, knocking him down, and held his wings tightly. Issei, Rias, please cover your eyes. The redhead Ascencio and covered her eyes. Issei, very well, crow, tell me how many there are. Fallen, I'm not going to tell you anything, damn, I'd rather die. Issei, well, if that's how things are. The blonde man began to pull on his wings to the point that he almost tore them off. Fallen. Ayayawa. Stop talking, but stop. Issei, that's what I wanted to hear. Fallen, we are a small squad of 5 angels living here on Kokabil's orders to kill that girl. Issei, with what orders? Well then go back to your companions and tell them that if they try anything against Rias again, I will hunt them down one by one, you hear? Fallen, if now please let me go. Issei, okay. The blonde was going to release the fallen, but he never said it was going to be complete. In moments the boy tore off the angel's wings and kicked him away from him. Fallen, damned because you tore off my wings. Issei, I never said you were going to leave completely. Now stop shouting and go with your companions. The frightened angel stood up and ran away. At that moment, Issei approached the redhead and touched her hands to get her to stop covering her eyes. Without wasting any time, the girl hugged the blonde tightly. Rias, crying, don't do that again, you almost died. Issei, don't worry, it won't happen again, come, I'll take you home. You could see the 2 boys walking away from the place. Elsewhere, in an abandoned church, the fallen angel who had previously lost his wings was entering. He approached a guy who was sitting on a throne. The guy is a black-haired man. His skin is pale, dressed in an elegant way. The fallen angel was kneeling before him. Fallen, my lord, Kokabil could not kill Rias Gremory. She was not alone. The subject, now identified as Kokabil, could clearly be seen not to be very happy with the news. Kokabil, as if she wasn't alone, tell me who was the damn thing that accompanied her. Fallen, he is a foreign boy. He seemed normal, but he attacked me even though I had pierced him with 3 spears of light. Kokabil, you have no idea what the boy is. Fallen, because of the strength he had and the wings he spread, I could say he was a vampire, one of royalty. But he even did something I had never seen before. He disappeared into ash when I stabbed him with the spears. Kokabil, now I see how he defeated you, and I'm surprised that the boy was born healthy. Fallen, what does Mr. Kokabil mean? Kokabil, you faced a hybrid vampire. He is half real and half soul eater. They increase their power every time they are not killed correctly. That explains why you lost against him. Fallen, now I understand. But Mr. Kokabil, there is more. The vampire knows that we want to kill the heiress of the Gremory clan. And he also knows how many fallen angels we are. Kokabil, idiot, you told him about us. Fallen, I'm sorry sir, but if I didn't say it he was going to kill me. Kokabil, well, I think you should have died in front of him. Fallen, hey sir. He started to make a face of terror. Please don't do it. At that moment Kokabil rose from his throne and grabbed the head of the fallen man. The angel was screaming and begging for him not to kill him. But in a short time Kokabil had crushed the angel's head and thrown the body onto the church chairs. Kokabil, no dirty vampire is going to stop my plans of wanting a war. Kokabil sat on his throne. At the moment, he used a small violet circle which seemed to be used as a telephone. Kokabil, come to church. We have to talk about something important. The next day, Academician Co. A blond man could be seen thinking about what happened yesterday. But his doubts were about to end, and he was going to ask the girls why they wanted to kill Rias. During break time, the blond man searched for the girls, finding them. Issei, hello girls, how are you? Akeno, oh hello Issei-kun, how are you? Issei, fine, but we could talk about something. Rias got nervous when she heard that because she knew where this was going. Akeno, Of course, Issei. What do you want to talk about? Issei. Well, follow me to a more private place. Akeno. Well, okay. At that moment, the goats were next to an abandoned building that no students were approaching. A perfect place to chat. Issei. Well, Akeno, tell me why fallen angels want to kill Rias. Akeno. Hey, what are you talking about? Issei. I'm sure you're fine. Issei. Please, Akeno, you know what I'm talking about. Last night I could see that you were following us after what happened with that crow, but I pretended that I didn't see you. Akeno. Well, apparently there is nothing to hide. Well, they wanted to kill Rias since she is the heiress of a clan quite influential in the world. If they kill her, her family would do something reckless that would harm several people. Issei. Well, now I have a little more clear why they want to kill Rias. But now I ask another thing. What are you? Since humans, I doubt it, since there are several families like the ones you said, Akeno, and no one has died in that time, making you be honest and tell me. Akeno was now nervous because she didn't know what to answer, but the redhead spoke up, which surprised the black-haired girl. Rias. Issei-kun, please don't hate us for this, please. The redhead sighed and told the truth. Rias, we are demons. At that, the redhead and the black-haired girl unfurled black bat-like wings, smaller than the blonde's and a black color. Issei was surprised, but it could be seen that he also had a twitch in his eye that reflected anger. Issei's thoughts. Why did my friends have to be from the race that killed my parents? Chapter 3. Bat vs. Crows. After knowing that his friends were demons, Issei had kept a rather angry look. He thought and prayed that at least his family had nothing to do with the death of his parents. These thoughts were interrupted by a redhead who caught his attention. Rias. And you, Issei, aren't you going to tell us it's you now, since seeing someone get impaled and seem to have revived isn't normal in a certain way? The blonde had forgotten that small detail. Clearly she had doubts about who it was, and more so Akeno, since she didn't expect that information. She had followed them, but instead she didn't see what happened to that fallen angel. Issei. Okay, I'll tell you what I am, and I'll even tell you the truth. Rias. The truth of what? Issei. You see, I'm not only a foreigner, but I'm a prince, Issei Windsor, heir to the crown of England, and I'm also a vampire. Saying this, Issei unfolded the brown bat wings that Rias had previously seen. Both girls were surprised to learn that their friend was a prince, but Rias was not 100% convinced that he was a common vampire. Rias. Issei, I'm sure you're not hiding anything else, apart from the fact that you didn't tell us why you hid that you're a prince. Issei sighed, as he was indeed hiding something else. Issei. Okay, I'll tell you. The reason why I didn't tell you that I was a prince was because my grandmother warned me that there were demons in this academy. She asked me not to tell anyone that I was a vampire, much less a prince, since they were the ones who killed my parents. The girls had previously noticed his look of disgust when they had told him they were demons. Now they understood why. Issei. Another thing, as you say, Rias, I am hiding something else, and you see, when I received the spears, the reason why I was not dead was because I am a hybrid. Rias. A hybrid? Of what? Issei. You see, there are different variations of vampires. There are the normal ones, the typical ones that are bothered by light and feed on blood. Then there are the royalty, meaning my family. These can control the other variations and can even kill them without having to touch them. Normally the royalty develop abilities that no other variation would have. The blonde stopped for a moment to see if they were paying attention to him, and indeed they were. Issei. Then there are the soul eaters, vampires that don't die so easily. If you think you killed it because it disappeared, it means that you actually made it stronger. The only ways to kill a soul eater is for it to be killed by another soul eater or one of royalty. The other way is to disintegrate it. Rias. So your parents are. Issei. My father was a royal and my mother a devourer. Akeno. My. I didn't expect you to be a hybrid. The brunette said this with a blush on her face. She felt familiar with the blonde. Issei. Well, now that you know what I am, explain to me well why you want Rias dead. Akeno. I'll explain that to you. You see, now that you know we are demons, you should have heard from the fallen angel that Rias was the heir of the Gremory clan. Issei. Yes, he showed a smile of victory seeing her alone with me, thinking that I was a normal human. Akeno. Well, during the Holy War there were 72 pillars in the demonic world. After the war only the demons were almost extinct. The Gremory clan along with a few other clans survived after the war. Rias, being the heiress of the Gremory clan, puts her at the target of some corrupt members of some enemy side. Therefore, Issei. Therefore, if she is killed, a war would start over the death of a clan heir, if I'm not mistaken. Akeno. Exactly. Issei. If the fallen angels want a war, that means they will try to kill you again, Rias. But if you're the one who prevented me from being killed, They'll most likely try to eliminate you first. Issei, well, if they come, the only thing they would achieve would be to make me stronger, although it is not very pleasant to be about to die. Rias, just in case, Issei could go with you. Issei's thoughts. I already missed his stuttering. Issei, of course, they're probably waiting for you to be alone. At that moment, the bell rang, signaling that they should return to class. The three young men returned to their classroom. After class, Issei could be seen accompanying Rias toward her home. They separated from Akeno since her house was closer to the outskirts of the city. With Akeno, she was walking home but stopped dead in her tracks and turned into an alley. Akeno, well, apparently they don't know how to follow someone discreetly. 1 hour ago, a group of fallen angels can be seen in a church preparing to leave. Kokobile, get the attention of Gremory's friend so she trusts you. Fallen one. And we knocked her out. Calm down, Mr. Kokobile. She's a vampire who will come to save her. He will leave the Gremory thinking that she will be safe in her home. We take advantage of that and kill her. Kokobile, okay. I don't want you to make any mistakes. If you do, you'll all die, understood? Fallen one, understood. The angel signaled to his companions. It was time to go out and get the black-haired girl. Currently in the alley, you could see how 3 fallen angels surrounded the black-haired girl. Akeno, well, what are you planning to do? Fallen one, demon we have come to take with our leader Sokapera. Akeno, well, I didn't expect that, but puts on a grim smile. I'm not like my friend. At that point, it could be seen that the sky began to thunder. This left the fallen somewhat surprised. Without them expecting it, a lightning bolt fell on top of them. Without wasting time, they covered themselves from the lightning. It did not damage them much, but it caused pain in their muscles. Akeno, we're going to have a lot of fun. It could be seen that the brunette had a very sadistic look. Fallen 2, that hitch is crazy. Fallen 3, well, everyone attack. He can't take us all at once. The fallen launched themselves at the brunette, but couldn't touch her because the girl generated an electric field that expanded until it touched the 3 fallen. They were unharmed, but felt their bodies begin to paralyze. Akeno, well, who do I start with? Without warning, the brunette punched one of the fallen in the face. Her blows were charged with electricity. The fallen man flew into the wall. Unlike the other times, this did cause the angel to faint, but the girl didn't notice the other 2, who were able to move. One of them connected with a blow to her face, and the other kicked the girl in the abdomen, causing her to double over in pain. One of them hit her in the back, finally knocking the girl unconscious. Fallen 1, it was more annoying than I thought. I didn't expect it to paralyze us. Fallen 3, well, we have to take her to Kokobile-sama. That useless guy will be in charge of killing the redhead. We will get that vampire's attention. With the 2 young people, Issei had arrived with Rias to his house. He was watching his rear to make sure they didn't follow him, but he still didn't trust him. Issei, Rias thinks it would be better if I stayed with you. I don't know why, but I feel like it wouldn't be a good idea to leave you alone for now. Rias, that's right, Aro Issei-kun. The redhead headed to the entrance of her house. She entered next to the blonde. After a while you could see the 2 boys watching television calmly. Rias was blushing from being alone with the blonde. She glanced a few times. The blonde noticed it once but didn't give it any importance. Rias, Issei-kun, can I ask you something? Issei, sure, tell me. Rias, what do you think that we are demons? Issei, sighs, well, Rias, at first I was upset because she reminded me a little of who killed my parents. But you 2 are my friends. Although you are demons, you are good people. You reflect evil. You do not look at all like the types of demons that my family described. I do not care that you are demons. I see you as family. The redhead was blushing to the point that her face was camouflaged by her hair. Rias, Issei-kun, yo. Glass breaks. The glass was pierced by a spear of light which had something on the tip. Issei, Rias, cover yourself. Let me check what's on the tip. Issei approached the spear. He could see that at the tip there was a drop. The blonde removed it from there to see what it showed. Issei remained silent since he could see Akeno tied up. She was unconscious. The blonde turned the photo over to see that they wrote a message dedicated to him. Vampire, our boss, we want to see you. If you don't show up, she will pay the consequences. Issei knew that if he went, Akeno would die. The photo showed the address where they were. Issei, Rias, stay home. Lock yourself in. I don't want them to find out you're alone. Rias, I understand. But what did you see? Issei, the fallen have Akeno. They want to see me. If I don't go, they will kill her. Rias was in shock knowing that her friend had been kidnapped. Issei was heading for the door, but he stopped dead in his tracks. What are you doing, idiot? Don't you see that's what they want? For you to leave the redhead alone. Thoughts Issei, But what? Don't you feel it? One of those crows is hiding in the trees, waiting for you to come out. Issei turned to the trees and began to close his eyes. He opened his eyes with a bang. Indeed, there was a fallen man outside waiting for the brunette to come out and take advantage of the situation and kill the redhead. Issei's thoughts. Damn, the voice is right, there's one outside, but if I don't go after Akeno, they'll kill her. Damn. I can't be in two places at once. What do I do? What do I do? Yes, we are going to do it. The blonde man became excited and quickly turned to his side, shocked by what was standing next to him. It was him. It was as if he had duplicated himself. Rias, how did you do that? Just a moment ago you were alone, but he appeared out of nowhere. You just started camouflaging yourself. Issei's copy began to disappear like smoke. Issei, the light bulb has gone on. Big smile. Outside the house. Fallen. Why is it taking so long? He must have realized I'm here. Well, the truth is I did notice. Fallen, but what? The fallen man was thrown out of the tree as Issei pulled him out by force. Rias came out of her house with the copy of Issei. The fallen man was out of combat, as he didn't hold back in hitting him. Issei, well now what do I do with him? Copy, you could hang him from the tree, taking advantage of the fact that he's knocked out. Issei, why not? After hanging up the angel, Issei was preparing to leave for Akeno. Rias, I'm going with you. Issei, no you stay. I'm not going to risk you getting hurt. Besides, there's my copy. They'll think I'm still here. At that, his copy vanished, causing a look of astonishment. Rias, well, we're leaving now. Rias walked up to the blonde and pulled him by the arm. Issei, I love my life. Poker look. In the church, the two fallen angels could be seen monitoring the area, watching for the vampire in the distance. They saw him approaching, and without wasting any time, they opened the door. The blonde man walked through it. In the distance, 3 people were seen watching. Behind them was Akeno, who was just waking up. Issei, well I'm here. What do you want? Kokobile, I thought you were the vampire who foiled my plans once, but this time it won't be like that. Kokobile wasted no time throwing a spear of light large enough to disintegrate someone. Akeno, who had just woken up, saw what was happening. Akeno, Issei, move! It was a matter of seconds before the spear slammed into the blonde, causing a brief explanation that would only be seen inside the church. The exposure caused quite a bit of smoke, and the smoke began to disperse. The blonde could no longer be seen. Instead, there was only dust. Kokobile, ha 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 ha, I told you this vampire wouldn't thwart my plans. Akeno was in shock. She saw how her friend was disintegrated. Hey Paleface. Kokobile, hey, what's up? He couldn't finish as he was expelled by a kind of sound wave. The other fallen ones moved away and stood next to Kokobile. They put themselves in battle pose. Rias, you're okay Akeno. Akeno, what are you doing here? Rias, we came to rescue you. Akeno, did we come? At that moment, the blonde man who had previously made the brunette think he was dead began to appear. Kokobile, you're still alive. You're hiding more tricks than I thought. But now you 3 will die here. As he finished saying that, the 2 fallen men beside him unfurled 2 pairs of wings. This left the blonde man confused, but the 2 girls were in shock, knowing what the extra pair of wings meant. Issei, girls please tell me what you have or some trick up your sleeve. Akeno, I can use magic with electricity. Rias, some of my family can use the power of destruction but… Issei, that's enough, take care of the 2 crows, I'll go for the pale one. Hearing this, Kokobile showed an arrogant smile, and, without wasting any time, launched himself at the blonde. Issei could barely see the fallen man's movement. He managed to cover himself from a kick that the fallen man threw at him, but he still took damage as he was thrown into the wall. Kokobile, what's wrong little vampire, did it hurt you? He launched himself again to hit Issei. Meanwhile, the girls were watching the supposed fight the blonde was having. Even though he looked more like a punching bag for the angel, they weren't fighting with the other 2 fallen since Akeno paralyzed them with electricity. Kokobile, come on, you're just serving me as a meat sack. Kokobile continued hitting the blonde who occasionally managed to cover himself from the fallen man's blows, his beating brain thanks to the fact that he managed to make him retreat with another of those strange waves. The fallen man was not thrown so far this time since he did not have his guard down. The blonde without wasting time took advantage of even that small push to kick him in the face, followed by another blow to the face. Kokobile showed a small grimace of pain. This did not harm him, but it did cause him pain. Issei tried to do a floor sweep but he couldn't because Kokobile held his foot and began to hit him on the ground and the wall. Akeno, seeing this, lost focus and freed the two fallen men from their paralysis. They, without wasting time, launched themselves towards the girls. Issei saw how they were dangerously approaching his friends. Despite being whipped, he managed to expel the two fallen men with another of his waves. Kokobile, what do you think you're doing? I'm your opponent, not them. Issei's thoughts. Damn, I can't handle this guy. The girls don't have enough power to defend themselves, especially Rias. I can't take care of these alone. Come on, I have to think. What are you waiting for? Use my power. That voice in his head again. But who was it? He couldn't think any further, as he was embedded in the wall. Kokobile, well, I'm tired of playing with you. I think I'll make you explode from the inside. Akeno, no, Issei, don't stay there. Get up. Rias was paralyzed by fear. She showed no trace of magic to be able to help the blonde. In that, Kokobile was generating another spear. Without wasting time, he threw it at the blonde. He closed his eyes, waiting to be stabbed and explode like he saw with his clone, but the spear never arrived. Issei opened his eyes. He could see the spear stuck in his abdomen. That's what he thought, since he could see that it was passing through ash. It was as if his body was not tangible. It was slowly coming out of the wall to face the man again. Kokobile. But how did you do that? Issei. Well, if I had known he could do that, I wouldn't have been treated like a punching bag. Issei launched himself against the fallen. Kokobile tried to hit him, but he went through him. He showed a look of shock. Issei, without losing the opportunity, connected a blow to his ribs combined with his rare wave. The two fallen, seeing this, went to help their leader. One of them tried to grab him from behind but had the same result as their leader. Issei took advantage of this and held the fallen's arm, putting him in a key. The other was preparing a spear of light. He threw it at him, but he did not count that. Issei released the other fallen. The spear pierced him and stuck in the shoulder of his companion. Issei launched himself against the fallen who attacked him from behind. He gave him a combo of blows to his abdomen. Then he hit him with his elbow on his back, followed by a mace blow which left him out of combat. Kokobile, damn it, I'll go for real this time. The fallen one spread 5 pairs of wings. This produced great fear in the girls. Akeno, Issei, don't try to fight him. We have to escape. Issei, don't worry, I'll take care of him. I only have to hit him a few times in the abdomen and he falls. He was brought out of his thoughts as Kokobile grabbed his face and buried him in the ground. Kokobile, you've caused me so much trouble now. Die. Kokobile was about to throw another of his explosive spears, but he received a magical attack, destabilizing Kokobile. He was thrown by Rias. Rias, leave him alone. Kokobile, oh little Gremory, I didn't expect an attack from you, but I think now you will die first. Kokobile is determined to attack Rias. He prepared a spear, but his arm was stopped by Issei, who was getting up. Kokobile, you never get tired of it. He couldn't finish because he was out of breath, caused by a single blow from Issei. He began to hit Kokobile without stopping. He had broken some of the fallen man's ribs. He began to bleed from the mouth. He finished hitting him, and then grabbed him by the neck. Issei, go away with your companions, and I don't want to see them here again, much less try to kill one of my friends again. Issei tossed Kokobile to the other 2 fallen soldiers. He turned to the girls to signal that they had to leave. They immediately went with him since he wasn't in good enough condition to walk alone. They left the church carrying him in their arms, walking away, leaving the fallen soldiers behind. Akeno, Issei, where did you get the strength to be able to leave him in that state? Issei, I don't know, I just felt more powerful and didn't waste a moment. But I think that cost me the little stamina I have left. Rias, well, we have to take you to rest, you're too hurt. Issei, well, don't remind me because it brings to mind those spankings that the pale face gave me. Akeno, I at least hope we never see him again. Issei, yes, well, let's rest. Rias, stop moving. Issei, sorry. Chapter 4, a club would be nice. After Issei had saved Akeno, he was being carried by the 2 girls since he could barely walk on his own after receiving a severe beating from a pale fallen angel. The young people were walking to the redhead's house since it was quite late, and luckily for the redhead the light in her house was on. Rias, oh no, my parents are here. Issei, I think it would be better if Akeno and I went. I don't think they would be very happy. Akeno, Rias, just calm down. Yes. Rias, yes, Sai. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. Issei-kun, I hope you recover. Issei, don't worry, Rias. I'll be fine. Good luck with your parents. My ribs. Akeno, I think Rias told you not to make a move. Issei, sorry. Strangers. Sai, well, until tomorrow, Rias. I'm going to take Issei to his house. The young people said goodbye, leaving Rias somewhat worried about the blonde, but she was also nervous since her mother was at home. Rias, well, I think it's time to go in. She headed home, entered it, and as if it were an alarm, her mother went straight to her with a worried look. Rias, daughter, where were you? I was worried about you. What were you doing? Who were you with? Rias, well, me, with Issei and Akeno. The two boys were heading to the blonde's home but at a slow pace. When they tried to go faster, the blonde's body began to hurt. Akeno, I can't believe you can walk. He literally treated you like a doll. Issei, don't remind me anymore. What I do know is why I didn't end up fainting. I mean, I don't know where that power came from to be able to beat that fallen one. Akeno, you're not worried about that strange power anyway. I mean, don't you think it's strange that it hasn't had any negative effects on you, considering the state you're in? Issei, well, I don't know, maybe it doesn't even have any side effects. Saying this, he fell to the ground, which scared the black-haired girl. Issei, there's the side effect. Close his eyes. Akeno, Issei. Akeno began shaking the blonde to get him to react. She began to calm down when she saw that he had fallen asleep. Akeno, it's good that you only fell asleep. Smiles. Well, my house is closer. I think it will be better to take care of you there. Akeno spread her wings and carried the blonde to take him home. In Issei's mind, Issei was in the middle of nowhere surrounded by mountains. He had his eyes closed. Little by little he began to open them, leaving him surprised. Issei, what? Where am I? Hello, is anyone here? As if in response, the sky began to darken. On one of the mountains a black cloud began to form. In it violet eyes began to be seen, which made the blonde feel a chill. After so long you come to visit me for the first time. The voice was commanding. The blonde couldn't speak because he was starting to get scared. Oh, come on, don't be afraid, I'm just a dragon sealed in you. Saying that, Issei didn't know what to say, meaning he has a dragon sealed inside him. Issei, wait, that means I have a sacred gear, which isn't supposed to be only for humans. You're wrong, sacred gears are tools. I'm sealed in your body. You could say we share a house. This left the blonde even more surprised, but there was one small detail. Who sealed the dragon into his body? What he had no doubt about was that he was sealed when he was a baby, since at that stage of his life, it was easy to seal him without any problems. Although that's true, you are a hopeless idiot. Issei, wait, what? You didn't realize there was one of those crows outside the redhead's house. You only did when I told you. Besides, even though I told you to use my power, all you kept wondering was where my voice was coming from. Issei, well, seeing it that way. Besides, you also have a pretty weak body. You only used my power for a moment and look, you fainted. Issei, wait, that means that burst of power was on your part. Of course, who else would it be? Issei, well, one less question on my mind. But you must train your body, otherwise my power will destroy your body. Consider that that was only a little of my power, and you were injured. Issei, I'll keep that in mind, but now I have a question. Who? He couldn't finish because everything went dark. His eyes were closed, but he opened them suddenly. He wasn't home. He began to inspect his body. He had no injuries. This calmed him a little, and he lay back down. But when he felt someone else beside him, he removed the covers that covered the bundle. He was surprised to find that the person next to him was Akeno, who was wearing purple pajamas. He became even more tense when he saw that she was starting to wake up. Akeno, good morning, Issei-kun. He said it with a big smile. Issei, hey, good morning, Akeno. Akeno, glad to see you awake. Last night it was only you who fainted. Issei, well, at least I'm okay, and from what I see you must have cured me, right? At that Akeno felt something strange below her. Akeno, what is this? She put her hand under the covers. Issei was surprised since he expected it not to be what he thought it was. Akeno, wow, what a big cell phone you have, Issei-kun. Now you could see how nervous the blonde was. Akeno was moving her hand too much until she stopped and pulled her out of the sheets. She had a pretty big cell phone that looked like a tablet. Akeno, well, Rias, what's wrong? Don't worry, he's fine. Yes, he fell asleep, that's why he answered his phone. Okay, see you at the academy. Well, let's go, Issei-kun. She gave him a smile before standing up. Issei's color was clearly returning, knowing she wasn't a relative. He only got out of bed to put on his pants, which were somewhat torn. Issei, sigh, well, I think I'll run out for my things that were left at Rias's house. He left the room ready to go get his things, but he was intercepted by Akeno, who had his clothes. Akeno, Issei-kun, I took the liberty of washing and fixing your uniform a bit. Here. Issei, thank you very much. Akeno smiling, now I just get dressed and go for my things. Akeno, calm down. Rias called and told me that she would give them to you on the way. Now get dressed, and we will have breakfast. Issei hurried to get dressed so he could have breakfast and go to the academy with Akeno. On the way to the academy, several classmates who lived in the same area as Akeno saw her hugging Issei's arm. At first glance, it was clear he wasn't bothered. Issei, considering that I saved her, healed her, fixed my clothes and everything else, I will not deny her embrace on my arm. Akeno was walking with a smile next to the blonde, until they ran into a redhead who, upon seeing the blonde, jumped to hug him. This caused her to lose her balance and get out of Akeno's hug, who looked quite angry. Rias, Issei, are you okay? I was worried about you. Issei, badly hurt on the back. You threw yourself with the force of a demon. Calm down, I'm fine. Rias, that's great. Rias was hugging Issei tighter without considering a certain black-haired girl. Akeno, I think it would be good to go to the academy, right? Rias, oh yes. Issei-kun, take your suitcase. Issei, thanks Rias. It's good that I brought all the subjects. The three of them went to the academy, but there was a small detail. Rias and Akeno were hugging the blonde's arms, which now the blonde was nervous. The few male students who were in the academy looked at the blonde with respect. On one side there was a happy redhead who didn't have a very developed body, and on the other side there was a black-haired girl who was better developed than the redhead but not to the point of looking mature. The classes passed normally, some boring, others fun because of how distracted some of the teachers were. During break time, Issei went to the bathroom. He was alone in a cubicle until two of his classmates came in. Student 1. So how do you see my club? Student 2. Pretty good, comfortable, and its members are very friendly. Now they really become good friends. Student. I knew you would love it. It's good to socialize with people. Issei. Socialize, it would be good to join a club with other supernatural beings. Starts to smile. I've finally got the light bulb. Time jump 5 minutes. Akeno, a club? Issei. Yes, the idea came to me when I listened to some classmates, and I thought it would be a good idea to create a club with other supernatural beings. I doubt we'll be the only beings in the academy. I mean, it's too big to be just 3. It will also help us live together better and not have a conflict like with the fallen angels. Rias. Well, in fact, there are more demons that are from another clan. Issei. And I'm just finding out. But what do you think of the idea, if you support it? Akeno. It's fine by me. Rias. I think it's a good idea. Issei. Well then, now I'm going to the student council to see if they'll give me permission to create it. A small detail that I forgot. Issei addressed the student council to create the club. Once outside the student council, he knocked on the door. Happens. A female voice was heard on the other side of the door. Without wasting time, Issei entered. The student council was empty, and from what she saw, the only person inside was the council president. How can I help you? In front of him is a very beautiful girl with black hair which she has tied in 2 pigtails. Her body was quite developed for a young woman of her age. What stood out the most were her breasts, which are quite large. Issei. Good afternoon. I'm Issei W. Issei Windsor, I already know. Issei. Wait, like, your uncles told me. Believe it or not, there are some demons who get along well with your family. Issei. Ah, that explains it. They couldn't have told me. But where are my manners? I'm Serafal Citri, Student Council President. Well, now that you know my name, what do you need? Issei. Well, I came to see if you would give me permission to create a club. Serafal. I wouldn't have any problem with it. But all the facilities are already occupied, so it's not worth creating another club. Issei was thinking, since he thought that since the academy was quite large, there would be no problem with that issue. But that left his mind as his gaze fell on a building that looked quite old. Issei. And what about that building? Serafal. That building has been abandoned for quite some time now. Issei. Well, then I could house the club there. Serafal. I'm sorry, but I can't give it to you easily. Issei. Oh, come on, please, I'll do whatever. Serafal. Whatever? Smiling. Issei. Yeah, whatever. Serafal. Well, I'll ask someone to bring the first members of your club. Tell me who they are. Issei. They are Rias, Gremory, and Akeno Himejima. Serafal. Well, I'll ask for them to be brought, and as for whatever it is. She approached Issei and whispered something in his ear, which made him blush. Issei. But, Serafal. No. Issei. Ah, okay. Serafal became happy and went to her desk to look for something. While Issei was taking off his clothes, on his face you could only see an expression of "I'm only doing it for the building." With Rias and Akeno, these were guided to the student council by one of its members who was known to Rias. Rias. Sona. The only doubt I have is why we were called to the council. We didn't do anything. Sona. Don't worry. The truth is I don't even know why they were called. I was just told that they would take them. Rias. Good. They had arrived at the student council, but as they approached the door they heard 2 voices. one from Issei who was identified by Rias and Akeno, the other was from Serafal who was identified by Sona. Issei, Miss Citri, this is very embarrassing, and if they look at us. Serafal, come on, you said you were going to do whatever, now be quiet and give me one of your best poses. Issei, okay. Outside the council the three girls didn't know what they were hearing. Akeno, good to clear up any doubts. Rias, wait Akeno. Akeno opened the door without wasting time. Each of them had a different reaction. Sona had a small smile with a small blush. Rias looked like she had stars in her eyes and Akeno had a little blood on her nose. In front of them was Issei wearing a magician costume that made him look cute. To one side was Serafal with a camera. Issei, chi-chi-chi-chi-chi-cas. Issei looked like metal at over 1000 degrees, after changing into his uniform. Serafal, well, sorry for what you saw, but well, you two are here because you are going to be the first members of the club of Hey Issei-kun. What are you going to call your club? Issei, hey wait, let me think, help, I need your help. Tenant, what do you want? Don't you see I was sleeping? Issei, sorry but I need your help. Tenant, okay, tell me how I can help you. Issei, I need a name for the club that is going to be created. Tenant, that's why you woke me up. He thinks I'm going to be it for you. Issei, but, Tenant, nothing, now let me sleep. Issei, damn, well think, the objective was for several supernatural beings to meet and socialize, although it would also be good to take care of other beings that want to harm people. Come on, think, I know, Miss Citri, the name will be Occult Research Club. Serafal, not a very common name, but who am I to criticize, so that's going to be the new club. Oh, here, the keys to the abandoned building. Issei, thanks, well, I think it's time to go. Come on, girls. Rias and Akeno, yes. Serafal, good luck with the rats and cockroaches. Issei, wait, well, what does it matter? I don't think there'll be a problem. The three young men left the student council, leaving the two members of said council behind. Sona, so he is heir to the crown of England. Serafal, Sona-chan, don't say it so loud, but he is. Sona, I see, he looks so cute in that wizard costume. While the young men had already arrived at the abandoned building, they entered without wasting time. At first, it was just dark stairs. After they climbed to the main room, they set out to see the supposed rats and cockroaches. Issei, well, you'll be fine. Rias, well, I think so. Akeno, don't worry, they don't scare me. Issei, good. Issei went to open the door, finding several boxes and a lot of dust. Issei, I knew it was a joke from Miss Citri. I wish it had been a joke, as several larger than usual cockroaches began to appear, as well as rats that looked more like rabbits than rats. Akeno and Rias, Kaiawea, the two young women jumped enough to be hanging from Issei. Akeno was in Issei's arms who was able to catch her, and Rias was holding Issei's head. Issei, you didn't tell me you weren't scared of them. Akeno, sorry Issei, but Kaiawea don't let me go. Issei, are you okay? Rias, well, I expected that from her. Well, who will help me clean the whole building now? Akeno and Rias, what Chapter 5 First Integration. It's a joke, right? The two girls were pale as they now had to clean the entire old building, which was full of cockroaches and rats. Issei, well, what are you waiting for? I'm not going to clean everything by myself. Akeno, but Issei-kun, there are too many cockroaches. Rias, please Issei-kun, don't do this to us. Issei, come on girls, they're just cockroaches and rats, nothing to worry about. Akeno, that's what worries me. Issei, but if we only have to clean, I don't think we'll have any problems with that. 5 minutes later, Issei was holding a rat by the tail which he was putting into a cage. The girls, Kaiawea, Issei, oh please, this is the third time in just a few minutes. Issei left the room he was in and headed to where the girls were. He definitely had a poker face, as the two demons sat in front of him on a chair. Issei, but how is it possible that two demons are afraid of simple rats? Rias, but Issei-kun, those things are scary. Issei had a serious look. He approached one of the rats and grabbed it by the tail. Issei, see how they are harmless, now hold one and use the cages. Rias was the first to try to grab one, but she started to run, which caused her to return to the chair where her friend was. Issei, I think it's going to be harder than I thought. Even my cousin would grab them without a problem. Tenant, well, the truth is, in all my time alive, I've never seen a demon get scared of a rat. Now I've seen it all. 2 hours later, Issei was finishing cleaning the second to last room of the building. All the rats had been removed, and the cockroaches were already in bags. It was quite difficult, since both demons were screaming at each other every minute, but in the end, he was able to clean peacefully. The girls, Kaiawea, Issei, They were already late. Issei went straight to where both demons were. His face looked quite tired since he had cleaned most of it himself, and that also added to the small detail that he had to spend every minute with both demons to help them. Issei, okay, now that's so here. The girls, Issei, both demons stood behind him, but this time he understood why they had screamed. In front of him was a 2-meter-tall cockroach. The blonde's expression only conveyed one message. Where did that come from? This time, he was truly afraid of the insect. Issei, this tenant of mine, any ideas? Tenant, kill her with bleach and get the body out of here. Issei, okay, now I'm sure you've been living for a long time. Tenant, more than you think. Issei, okay girls, any ideas? Silhouettes of both women with dots. Issei, wow, you're brave. The blonde returned his gaze to the giant cockroach which was already in hunting position. Issei, sigh, well then, at least I hope they help me clean up the remains of this thing. 3 minutes later, the blonde was entering the main room of the building. It was stained with blood by the cockroach which was heavy in the other room. In the main room there was both demons waiting for him. The girls, Issei, are you okay? Issei, just in case, which of you two had the idea of leaving me with the cockroach? Rias, that was Akeno's idea. Akeno, what? Hey, but you were the first to run away. Rias, but you were the first to back down. Akeno, that's not true. I was just watching the exit. You were the one who abandoned Issei-kun with that giant thing. Rias, that's not true. I was about to attack when you left. Issei, girls, don't you think you're exaggerating a little? Knock knock. Issei, hey, they're waiting for someone. Rias, not me, and you Akeno. Akeno, nobody. Issei went to open the door. Behind it were two girls, one who already looked familiar to the blonde, black hair, developing breasts, glasses and violet eyes. The other girl had longer hair, black, wore the same glasses, her eyes were light brown, her body was more developed than her companions, her breasts were the same size as Akeno's but they still had to grow. Issei, this is what I offer you, Miss Sona Citri. Issei, okay Miss Citri, how? Wait, said Citri, I hope it's not a close relative of Miss Serafal. Can I help you? Sona, well, I'm coming to join your club. Issei, wait, how do you know this is going to become a club? Sona, well, I asked my sister about the new club that was going to be created and I was interested. Issei, this is good. Looking at his companion, excuse me, and what's your name? Good afternoon, my name is Tsubaki Shinra and like Sona I want to join your club. Issei, well, what a surprise. Wait a moment, where are my manners? My name is Issei-chan. Issei, there is no. Without warning, Issei took off his uniform jacket and covered his eyes with it. The others didn't know why he was doing this, but they were reassured when they heard a certain black-haired woman with pigtails. Serafal, hey Issei-chan, it wasn't fair to cover his eyes. Pouting cutely, Issei, actually it is valid since we had only said that if I looked at you I had to put on any men's anime clothes without protest. Serafal, sigh, well, you're probably wondering why my sister suddenly asked you to join her club. Issei, indeed, I have that doubt. I hope she doesn't ask me to take care of her. Serafal, well, the reason is that she heard you when you were talking to little Rias and Akeno about the idea of several supernatural races living together. Issei, well, if that's why, there's no problem. Serafal, but I do ask you to take care of her. Since she won't be in the student council I won't see her much. So please could you take care of her? Issei, this is good, that's a bit. Serafal, thanks Issei-chan. Well, I'm going now, Sona and Tsubaki, I hope and meet new students. Well, see you later. Issei, hey. Wait, I don't accept. He couldn't finish because the brunette left the club, leaving a resigned blonde behind. Sona, well, now what are we going to do? Issei, taking off his jacket, well, you choose. Help Rias and Akeno clean or make the first posters promoting the club. Sona, I prefer to stay and clean both, and it would be nice to talk a little with my friend Rias. Issei, wait, Rias, you knew her. Rias, Ito, I already knew her. Issei, wow, thanks for telling me, Sai. Well, what do you want to do, Tsubaki? Tsubaki, I prefer to help you with the club's advertising. Issei, well, in that case let me go get my laptop to make the posters and flyers. Issei left the building. Tsubaki followed him as she would wait for him in the courtyard, leaving the three girls in the club. Rias, hey Sona, and exactly why did you want to join the club? Because I don't think it was just because you listened to our conversation with him. Sona, well, actually I also wanted to join because I think Issei is handsome. Rias, okay then, hey no, that's not it. It was enough with Akeno seeing him with lust, now you too. Sona, sorry Rias, but I didn't know you liked him. Rias, of course hey wait, I don't like this me. Rias covered her face in embarrassment after revealing that she liked the blonde. Akeno, poor things if they knew that I was able to sleep with him, although he actually fainted. But I felt comfortable sleeping with him. I was even able to touch something big of his and it wasn't his phone. While Rias continued to hide her face, Sona laughed at seeing her like that. Akeno remembered what she had grabbed from Issei. Chapter 6 Flu Problem. Issei had gone to get his computer with Tsubaki, who was going to help him with the club's advertising. At this moment, he was already returning with Tsubaki. She was carrying Issei's computer, and the blonde was carrying a table and a small screen. Tsubaki, okay, and tell me exactly why you brought the screen. I mean, the table makes sense, but why the screen? Issei, well, considering that I don't want any problems with other races, it occurred to me that you might find some of them wandering around the city. If they've done something, we'll know from the news since they'll show it because of how rare it is. Tsubaki, well, if you look at it that way. Both young men returned to the club to begin advertising. They entered one of the several rooms in the building. Issei placed the table and began to see where he was going to place the screen. Tsubaki, hey, don't you think you're missing an antenna, considering this building doesn't have some cable because it's so old? Issei, don't worry, I have everything planned. Both were doing their thing. Tsubaki had made a poster in which were each native language of any supernatural being, all that and a few small words below do you know your root? With the objective that only supernaturals or humans who know the subject join the club. Right now Tsubaki was being accompanied by the others who had just finished cleaning the other rooms. At this moment they were looking in a rather amused way at a blonde man with several cables and tools. Issei, a little question. Does anyone know where the power cables go? Tsubaki, Issei, anyway, even if we knew this building has no electricity, there is no connection. Issei, well in that case Akeno come. Akeno, what's wrong Issei-kun? Issei, you could hold the screen cable and if it's not too much trouble you could send electrical charges to make it turn on. Akeno, with pleasure Issei-kun. Akeno began to transmit electricity to the screen. At first, it wouldn't light up until she reached the required voltage. But now there's another problem. Sona, Issei-san, there is no antenna. How do you want to see a channel? Issei, don't worry, that's what I brought this for taking out the object. My own homemade antenna. Rias, but Issei-kun, those are just tubes with wires, how is that going to work? Issei, well, I've traveled to other countries and several use this homemade antenna and it works, it doesn't hurt to try. He proceeded to connect the antenna and began adjusting it to pick up some television signal. Until he succeeded, the news channel appeared on the screen. Sona, it worked, Issei, and my uncle said that because I had that with me, I knew it would be useful to me. News reporter, this is the second body found by police in just 1 week. No one knows what type of animal attacked the two victims. Animal control still has no answers. The censored image of the body was shown on the news. Because of the censorship, the damage wasn't clearly visible, but what was noticeable was the lack of arms and legs. Whoever did that must have enjoyed making the person suffer. Issei, I know some humans are too sadistic, but they say that animal control still has no answer, so the lack of limbs must have been due to brute force. Tenant, are you planning to go out in search of that animal? Issei, in fact yes, I don't want things like this to happen to innocent people, but I'm going to go alone. I don't want any of them to get involved in this, especially Rias and Akeno, not after what happened with the fallen. Tenant, understood. Without warning the screen ended up exploding, the reason, overload. Akeno, oops, sorry my fault. While Akeno scratched the back of her head with a smile, Issei looked at the screen. In his head there was only one thought, and that was to install electricity to the building. At night, the little vampire was hidden in the shadows, watching the area to see if he could locate the supposed animal. But he didn't realize that someone was watching him. Issei, I don't see anything. Now that I think about it, who would be outside their home at this time of night? Tenant, don't ask him if he's dead. Issei, how funny you are. And well, what are we looking for? Issei, Aawa. Sona, what are you doing here? Sona, well, after we saw the news, I thought you were going to go out looking for that supposed animal. So I sneaked out of my house thinking you'd be out by now. And look, I wasn't wrong. Issei, but it's dangerous. Who knows if that's a simple animal? Sona, well, I thought you might need help so I went out. Issei, I appreciate that, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you. The blonde was interrupted by a woman's scream asking for help. To a human's ears it wouldn't be heard at all, but to a vampire and a demon they heard it nearby. Sona, you heard. Issei, yes, well, I think now you're going to have to come with me. The two boys went to where they heard the woman scream. They eventually reached an underground parking lot, where in the darkness they saw a young, thin woman curled into a fetal position. Issei was the first to approach the woman. Issei, excuse me miss, are you okay? Girl, please kill me. The last thing he said in a low voice. The blonde was surprised. The woman asked for help before. Now she was asking to be killed. Issei, excuse me, but why are you asking me that? Girl, please kill me. I don't want to hurt al. The moment he started screaming, his body began to change. His thin body began to become more robust. He began to grow, reaching a size of 2 meters. His arms became fatter, and on his head 2 horns began to grow, which made him look like a bull. Issei, well, we already found the supposed animal, Sona. But Issei, this girl was infected. Issei, infected with what? Sona, you see, during childhood, we demons get a primitive flu, which is extremely strong and requires us to rest for a year. But if a human is infected with said flu, they will most likely suffer several changes in their body. This girl was exposed to a child with the flu. It was most likely the babysitter. Issei, but there is a cure, right? Sona, yes, there is a cure. But first we have to knock her out to take her to an underworld hospital. Issei, very well, in that case I'll knock her out. This tenant, are you awake? Tenant, yes it does. Issei, well, I wanted to know if you could lend me a little of your power. Tenant, no problem. At that moment Issei was surrounded by a dark energy. Sona, but what is that? Issei approached the woman who was staring at him. Issei, well, how about it start? The blonde man was interrupted by a blow from the woman, who ended up slamming him into a wall. She removed her arm from the wall, and the blonde man could be seen, looking like a decal, falling off the wall, which now bore the blonde man's silhouette. Sona, Issei. Damn, I'll have to fight alone now. Looking at the woman very well, now I will be your opponent. Sona launched herself at the woman. She threw a punch at Sona, who dodged it. Without wasting time, Sona froze the ground, which caused the woman to slip. In a short time, Sona began to create a small ice mace. With this, she began to attack the woman, who only continued attacking Sona. Sona began hitting the girl's legs to prevent her from continuing to move. But this only made the girl angrier, causing her to kick Sona, who had to cover herself with an ice shield that she created in a short time. Seeing this, Sona proceeded to throw several ice stakes at her to impale her arms and legs. The girl began to move to avoid said stakes, which managed to make some small scratches. She arrived with Sona and threw a blow at her. Sona barely managed to dodge the blow. She was able to position herself behind her to hit her on the head with the mace. But the girl stopped the mace and threw Sona towards the wall. She got up quickly since the girl approached her at a fairly high speed. Sona, without wasting time, grabbed her mace again and proceeded to launch herself at the girl. While in Issei's mind, Issei, what the hell happened? Why did this woman hit me so easily? Am I not supposed to defeat her easily with your power? Tenant, remember I said you were a bit weak? Issei, yes. Tenant, well, in a few words, I gave you the power that your body can withstand. That time with the fallen angels, I was filtering a little of my power so that you could face the 2 fallen ones. With the last one, I gave you enough power to defeat him. Why do you think that in the end your body suffered great damage? Your body couldn't take it. Issei, that means that with your power I can only defeat, for example, fallen angels with 4 wings. Tenant, if you see it that way, yes. Issei, damn, well, I have to get back to reality. Tenant, by the way, another fact, you will only be able to use my power for about 30 seconds. After that time, the energy your body can handle will begin to increase, causing damage to you again. Issei, great. What I was missing was that he had a time limit. Well, then he complained to me. In reality, Sona was dodging the woman's attacks. At every opening she found, Sona was trying to hit her. Due to a careless moment, Sona just received a blow. She could barely get back up to quickly form an ice shield to block a barrage of blows that the woman began to throw. The shield could barely withstand the girl's blows. The shield ended up being destroyed. Sona had already covered herself with her arms to receive the blow. But at that moment the woman had paralyzed. She was being electrocuted. Sona, Akeno, when did you arrive? Issei, what Akeno? I'm the one who paralyzed her. Sona, oh sorry, I didn't know you could use lightning to your advantage. Issei, well, I just learned it. But I'll explain that to you later. Now knock her out so they can take her to get cured. Sona, yes. Without wasting any time, Sona hit the girl's head with a giant ball of ice. Issei, okay, now how do we take her to the underworld? Sona, calm down, I'll take care of it. You go and make sure no humans come. Issei, okay. Issei left the parking lot to watch for any humans, and sat down waiting for Sona to leave. About 10 minutes had passed, and he had already stopped the bums and drug addicts from entering, the latter of whom ended up being knocked out because they were too stubborn. Sona, okay, the girl has already been sent to the underworld. Once she's healed she'll be taken home before she wakes up. Issei, okay, in that case we're done here, now let's go back to our homes because I'm starting to get sleepy. Sona, what, does it make you sleepy? Issei, of course, I'm a living being, I have to sleep. Sona, well, in that case, see you tomorrow Issei-kun. Both went to their homes. Sona left through a magic circle and Issei flew away but not to his home. Issei, hey, you're still awake. Tenant, of course you need to. Issei, well, after what you said about my current condition, you think you could help me with that? Tenant, well, I don't see any problem with it. In fact, I already know it's going to help you a lot. I'm just going to need you to get comfortable. Issei, huh? Why? Tenant, for this. Without wasting any time, Issei ended up falling, landing in the top of a tree, in the middle of a forest, near the mountains. He stayed like that for about 2 minutes, after which he got up, slightly in pain. Issei, what's wrong? That hurt. Tenant, calm down, it was necessary. At this moment I shared one of my skills with you. Issei, seriously, and what is it? Tenant, well, look behind you. The blonde proceeded to turn around, and as he did so he saw large tentacles of darkness emerging from the ground. Issei, wow, what are they? Tenant, those friends are the whips or tentacles of the apocalypse. Issei, and why that name? Tenant, easy, this ability was the only one capable of subduing the beast of the apocalypse. Issei, then an amazing ability. Tenant, but be careful, because these things require pretty good mental control, otherwise they'll go crazy. Issei, in that case you want me to train my mind with these things. Tenant, not only your mind, but also your speed and endurance, since I doubt you'll be able to control them the first time. Issei, come on, I don't think it's that difficult. Tenant, well then, let your training begin. As he finished speaking the tentacle began to move uncontrollably. Issei barely dodged a blow from the tentacle. Issei, this thing is too fast, but I also have to get control over this thing. Issei was interrupted by a tentacle strike which sent him flying a few meters. Issei, Aawa. That really hurts me. Again I receive another blow from the tentacle which embedded it in the ground. Issei, this is going to be a long night. Chapter 7, a das and a little move. Issei was feeling quite tired. For 2 hours he spent dodging the giant whips of darkness, during which time he also tried to control them, but this ended up with a headache. At this moment he was barely dodging the whips. One of them was about to hit him, but it ended up piercing him like the spear of the fallen angel. Issei, at the last moment that saved me another. This was interrupted by a severe headache, which caused one of the whips to hit him hard on the back, which ended up crashing him into a tree. Tenant, you are not allowed to send your body to the realm of the dead. Issei, wait, you caused that headache I just got. Tenant, yes. Issei, why did you do it? Tenant, I did it because you sent your body to the realm of the dead. Issei, what? I didn't do that. Tenant, of course you did, otherwise why did the whip pierce you? Issei, what, is that the reason why I was pierced by that angel's spear? Tenant, exactly. Issei, well, and how did I activate that effect on myself? Tenant, you activated unconsciously. Another thing you must master, right now it activates but when your body feels in danger, or at least that should happen, at the moment that effect is unstable. Now you have 2 things to master and apart from that increase your resistance and speed. Issei, well in that case let's continue with the training. Tenant, whip. Issei barely dodged a whip that passed near his head. Issei, hey, that's no good, we weren't even back on track yet. Tenant, no excuses. Without contradicting his dragon tenant, the blonde continued trying to dodge and control the whips. He trained all night, not to mention that he had classes tomorrow. The next day, Issei was walking towards his academy, his face extremely tired. You could see that at any moment he was going to fall asleep. He could barely rest for an hour. At this moment he was somewhat calm since there was almost no one on the street, which he liked since at the moment he couldn't stand loud sounds. Of course, his peace was interrupted by a certain friend of the blonde. Akeno, Issei-kun. Issei, great, hello Akeno. Akeno, hello, what a coincidence that we met on the way to the ACA. Hey Issei, are you okay? I see you're a little down. Issei, it's nothing, I just didn't sleep, that's all. Akeno, what, vampires need to sleep? Issei, yes, we need to sleep. I don't know why many people still think we don't need it. Akeno, hey, that means the other myths about you are false. Issei, of course they're fake. I don't know how there are other supernatural beings who still believe in those myths. Akeno, including the sun. Issei, It's not obvious. Akeno. I actually thought they used creams to be able to stay in the sun. Issei, idiot. Akeno. Okay. But tell me why you didn't sleep. Don't tell me you watch adult content at night. Issei. If that content includes seeing a woman with the demon flu transform into a huge thing. Please be clear. Akeno. You know, pornography, 18+ movies, stuff like that, or don't tell me you're not a pervert. Issei. Honestly, those days of being a pervert are long gone. Akeno. Seriously. Have you ever been a pervert? Issei. Like you once said. Akeno. Well, if that's not it, then why didn't you sleep? Issei. Well, this. Help, I say. Tenant. Well, tell him the truth. Issei. Sure. Tenant. Of course. I doubt he would get angry. Issei. Well, if you say so. I was with Sona walking at night. Flush mode on. Akeno. Wow. I didn't expect that. From what I see, you were quite entertained. Smiling. Issei. This tenant, who wasn't supposed to get angry, clearly wants to kill me. Tenant. Well, you're an idiot. Issei. What if I told the truth? Tenant. But not that one, the training one. Issei. I think you're right. With that truth I wouldn't have gotten angry. Issei was taken out of his thoughts as his body warned him of danger. In front of him was an Akeno with an aura of death directed towards him. Akeno. Issei-kun, I'd like you to give me details. Issei. Well then, look at the time. See you later, Akeno. I'll see you in the living room. Without wasting time, the blonde ran off in the direction of the academy, leaving Akeno very, very angry. Akeno. Issei, come back here. The brunette started running as fast as she could. She had only one goal, and that was to beat the young vampire to the punches. Ko Academy, Room 1 Degree B. A calm redhead was waiting for her friends to arrive. The other students were just entering, but they stepped aside as a blonde man, quite familiar to the little girl, ran in. Rias. Issei-kun. Why? Issei. There's no time to explain. Please hide me, Rias. Rias. Hide from whom? At that moment, a loud scream was heard coming closer to the room. This scream left the young vampire frozen. Akeno. Issei. The boy had become completely paralyzed. Issei. Damn, I'd die here. But his eyes showed hope as he looked towards the window, and only gave a simple answer. Issei. With your permission, Rias, but I'll kill myself. He ran to the window with a look of determination to jump. All of the blonde's companions looked at him in surprise and fear. Issei opened the window and prepared to jump. He would have done so if not for a hand that held him. Akeno, where do you think you're going? Curiously, she said this quite calmly. Issei. Well, permission to say last words. Akeno. Denied. Break time. Issei was sitting in one of the few chairs in the club. He had a small ice pack on his head, a few scratches on his face. His left arm is bandaged. Next to him was Rias, who was helping him with the wounds on his face. In another chair was an Akeno, still quite angry with Issei, although it did hurt her a little to see him in that state. Rias, don't you think you went a little too far with Issei-kun? Akeno. Honestly, I think I did go too far. Issei. But you really hit me without mercy. Akeno. But as such it was your CU. Door opening. Sona. Hello? Akeno. The person responsible for Issei-kun's beating has arrived. Hello, Sona. What brought you here? Sona. Well, I heard that Issei-kun had been beaten up quite a bit, and I wanted to come see how he was. Issei. Well, thanks for coming, Sona. Akeno. Now that I remember, Sona, can I ask you something? Sona. Of course. Akeno. Well, I wanted to know if. Knock on the door. Sona. Hey, it must be Tsubaki. Sona headed to the door to open it, but on the other side, the young demon wasn't there. Instead, there were two boys, quite short for high school students. The first was a brunette with brown eyes and a thin build. He had a childlike face and was wearing the academy uniform. His companion had the same facial features and build, blue hair and green eyes. He was slightly taller than the brunette, but they were also small. Sona. Hey, how can I help you? Good afternoon, miss. My name is Boris Sokolov, said the little brown-haired boy. Good afternoon. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sergei Popov. I speak in blue hair. Boris, we can come in. Sona. Sure. Sona let them pass. The others looked at them curiously. There were few men in the school, so two students who looked like children would not go unnoticed. That shows that the students of this academy saw it as something normal and that the women here are normal. Issei. Hey, good afternoon. How can we help you? Boris. Good afternoon. My friend and I came here because of your club sign, which said that if we understood what it said we should come talk to you. Issei. So you started to see it? Yes, exactly, and to be more exact, what language did you understand? Boris. We actually want to know how you know that language. Issei. The truth is I don't speak that language. It was written by a member of the club who hasn't arrived yet, but I want them to trust us, so let me introduce myself. I'm Issei Windsor and I'm a vampire. He spread his wings and showed something that no one had seen. His eyes turned red. Issei. And the reason why languages were used was to meet other supernatural beings. I want them to know each other and live together in peace. That and to keep some animals of the supernatural world, and diseases, at bay. Boris. Well, I imagine the native language was to know who was supernatural and who wasn't. Issei. Exactly, Sergei. And he wants us to live peacefully among various species and also to keep animals from the supernatural world under control so that humans don't see them. Or at least that's what I understood. Issei. That's right. Boris. And they, what are they? Issei. They are demons. Rias. Hello, my name is Rias Gremory. Akeno. My name is Akeno Himejima. Sona. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sona Citri. Issei. And well guys, study what they are. Boris. Well, seeing that everyone was honest, I don't see any problem in saying that we are, so, we are fairies. Issei stared at the two fairies. He had a thinking face. He came out of his thoughts and proceeded to speak. Issei. I thought they were taller. Sergei. Hey, what's wrong? For your information, we're taller than other fairies our age. Issei. Well, if you say so, but all that aside, they don't want to join the club. Boris. I have no problem. It would be interesting for me. Sergei. Well, if you accept, I'll accept too. Issei. Great, then welcome to the Occult Research Club. With this last sentence, the sound of a horn was heard, indicating that the break was over, and everyone returned to their classes in a calm manner. Time skip. Night. Issei's apartment. Issei was lying on one of the sofas. He was calm watching television. His tranquility was gone when someone knocked on his door. Issei. Oh please, I wonder who I will be. Issei got up to see who had knocked on his door. He opened the door and found his 4 club mates. Issei. Hey, what happened girls? Why did you come to my house? Sona. Well, I came because I wanted to help you with some things in your apartment, considering that your arm is still bandaged. Issei. Well, I appreciate that. But why did you come? Akeno. Akeno. Well, I came for the same reason as Sona. Issei. Fine, and you Rias. Rias. I came to help as well as Akeno and Sona. Issei. Well, and you Tsubaki. Tsubaki. The truth is I only came because I had nothing to do. Issei. Wow, how sincere. The young vampire let his friends into the apartment. They helped him with some of the cleaning, since the blonde cleaned his apartment every 3 days. Issei offered them dinner, which they accepted. Issei was currently in the kitchen, accompanied by Tsubaki. The 3 demons were waiting in the living room. Sona. Right, Akeno, you wanted to ask me before the 2 fairies came in. Akeno. It's true, I had forgotten. I wanted to ask you, what were you doing with Issei at night? His question made Sona a little nervous. Although she later got over her nerves. Nothing would happen if she told him why she was with him. The truth, we were looking for the alleged creature that the murders had committed. In the end we discovered that it was a human with demonic fever. We managed to capture it, and was taken to the underworld for treatment. Akeno. Oh, in that case I'm more at ease. Rias. How calmer, you hit Issei-kun for no reason. Akeno. Of course I had a motive. Rias. Let's see, what was it? Akeno. He didn't want to tell me why he was with Sona. Rias. That's not enough reason to break Issei-kun's arm. Akeno. That's a good reason for me. This bothered the redhead too much. Her anger was so great that she ended up throwing a red sphere at Akeno. She barely blocked Rias's attack. Akeno. What's wrong with you, Rias? Rias. I think it's really stupid of you to do that. Not even because he saved you from the fallen. Akeno. Well, that's what happens for not having talked to me. Rias couldn't hold it in any longer and prepared to attack Akeno. She followed the redhead's steps. Sona was watching this with fear, and if they managed to destroy something. In the kitchen, Issei was calmly preparing something to eat next to Tsubaki. They were just finishing the small foods. But his calm was ended by a small noise of exploration. Issei. I hope it's not what I imagine. Both young people proceeded to leave the kitchen. What they saw when they left was an Akeno and Rias hidden behind a burned armchair. Sona was behind an ice shield and the apartment had a giant hole. The only intact room was the kitchen. Issei. Wow, my apartment was beautifully remodeled. He had a rather wide smile, which unsettled the people who caused the explosion. Issei went to sit in the only chair left over from the explosion. Sona. Issei, are you okay? Issei. Yes, I feel fine. But I have a question. Who was the one who remodeled my apartment? Those responsible came out of their hiding place somewhat scared. Issei looked at them with the same smile, but that smile changed to a look of anger, and without prior notice gave a blow to both demons. He produced a Shikon in the head which was accompanied by a smoke thread. Issei, what's wrong with you? Why did you explode my apartment? Rias, Issei-kun, we swear we have an explanation. Issei, come on, give your explanation. Rias proceeded to explain how the argument started and how it turned into a fight. This didn't leave the vampire very happy, and he struck the two girls again. Issei, they really blown up my apartment over a stupid fight. The only thing left was the kitchen. The Kitioke, no, my room. He went in the direction of what used to be his room and began to search desperately for something. His search ended when he found whatever he was looking for. He was now calmer. Issei, now what am I going to do? When my uncles find out what happened and that it was caused by demons, they will most likely return me to England. Rias, Issei-kun, maybe there is a solution. Issei, which one would it be? Because I can't afford a house. That would give me away because of the cost of housing. Rias, well, I have something in mind. Issei, and that's it. Knock knock. They were knocking at the door, and within seconds a woman quickly opened the door to see who was knocking. I'm coming. Wait a moment, opens door. Oh Rias, I'm glad you're home, daughter. In front of the woman was a somewhat nervous Rias. Behind her was Issei, who had a suitcase with him. He was frowning. Rias, a memo or omi. I ha vs omi think totaldoundAsked. Rias's mother, a woman with a fairly young appearance. She has brown hair, violet eyes, a very beautiful body. Her face is very similar to Rias's but much more mature. What stands out most about her is her chest. This is very large. Rias, of course Rias. Rias proceeded to tell him everything. Who his friend was, how he got hurt, how he made Rubio's apartment explode, and at the end she asked him if he could stay and live with them for a while. Rias, well, first I must say that this behavior that Akeno had and you was too bad. Second, of course you can stay. How not to let the boy pass that protected my daughter of fallen angels? Issei, how? Issei just looked at Rias with a questioning face. Rias just made an apologetic gesture to the blonde. Rias, but first, where are my manners? Nice to meet you, boy. My name is Venelana Gremory and I am the mother of this little angel of a daughter. Issei, well, I don't see you as much of an angel. Nice to meet you, Miss Gremory. I call you Issei Windsor. Venelana, well, why don't we go home for dinner? It's already night. Both young men nodded and entered the house. But Issei stopped dead in his tracks. This caught Rias's attention and she approached Issei. Rias, hey Issei-kun, what's wrong? Issei, I didn't realize something. Turns pale. Rias, you didn't notice. Issei, breasts, big breasts. Rias, wait, you noticed my mother's breasts? Issei, yes, but not in the way you think. If not, I would look at them with terror. I have a phobia of big breasts. Rias, oh, I see, don't worry. She won't even come near you. Rias pulled Issei into the house. They headed to the dining room, where Rias's mother was carrying some plates. She set up dinner so she could sit with both boys. Venelana, and tell me Issei-kun, when is your birthday? Rias, Mom, why that question? Venelana, well, considering she's going to stay with us, don't you think it would be nice to know her birthday so we could celebrate it? Rias, well, if that's it. Venelana, in that case, tell me, when is your birthday? Issei, my birthday, well, it was February 14th. Rias, wait, your birthday is the same day as Valentine's Day. Issei, yes. Rias, how envious, you must be getting double gifts. Issei, well, for me it was a good birthday that I had. Little souvenir. Issei was sitting. In front of him was a cake which had some candles shaped like numbers. This one was a 16. On one side of the cake were two of the beings he loved most in his life. Without further ado, they proceeded to sing the typical birthday song. Issei, happy birthday to me, happy birthday to me, happy birthday Issei, happy birthday to me. Issei proceeded to blow out the candles. After that he looked to the left side. On that side there was a photo. Issei, thank you parents for being here on my birthday. The photo is of Issei's parents. In it they appear next to a baby Issei. Tenant, hey Issei, how many birthdays have you had like this? Issei, to be exact, 12. My uncles don't celebrate it with me and my cousins don't remember it. Sometimes I have felt too depressed for being alone. He said this with a small tear running down his face. Tenant, well, in that case, happy birthday Issei. Issei just smiled with several tears on his face. Issei, thanks, the good thing about this birthday is that at least I'm not alone. End of memory. Issei, yes, a good birthday. Everyone in the dining room continued with dinner, and then went to rest. Venelana, okay Issei-kun, I'll take you to your new room, follow me. Issei followed Rias's mother, she took him to a room near the bathroom. Venelana, well, Issei-kun, this is where you will sleep. I'll leave you to settle in and rest. Issei, likewise Miss Gremory. Issei dropped his suitcase and arranged the few clothes he had. He began to change, putting on some regular pajamas, and proceeded to lie down on the bed. He placed a photo that was very important to him next to the bed. He just looked at it. Issei, good night Dad, Mom. He just turned over to sleep on his stomach, and it didn't take long for him to fall into Morpheus' arms. Chapter 8 First Assignment. Another day and another weekend approaching. Rias was getting ready to leave for the academy. She went downstairs to have breakfast. She was the only one in the cafeteria. Her mother worked early, and Issei hadn't come down yet. After breakfast, Rias went to look for Issei, who still hadn't come down. She went to his room and found him sleeping very peacefully. It seemed that he didn't mind that his arm was bandaged. She only approached him to wake him up. Rias, Issei-kun, wake up, we're going to be late. Issei, Rias, Issei, 5 more minutes. Rias, Issei-kun, remember that right now you are at my house and we are further away from the academy. In less than 2 seconds, Issei shot out of bed to get dressed. He didn't care what time it was or if Rias was watching him, he just didn't want to be late. On the way to the academy, both young men headed to the academy in a calm manner. The blonde was able to quickly leave Rias's house even though he was eating bread. Issei, you know the truth is, I forgot I was at your house. It's not every day they blow up an apartment, and on top of that they are my friends. Rias, seriously Issei, we're sorry for doing that. Issei, what does it matter? Hey, those two over there aren't the fairies from yesterday. Rias, indeed it is them. Both young men ran in the direction of the 2 boys from yesterday. Issei, hey Sergei, Boris. The boys turned around to see who was calling them. When they saw who it was, they just smiled and greeted their 2 classmates. Sergei, hey guys, I didn't expect you guys to stop by. Issei, well, the truth is that from today onwards this is going to be my route. Boris, and why is that? Issei, well, why? I can't speak because Rias covered my mouth. Rias, okay guys, see you at the club. Rias held Issei's broken arm so Issei could take him away. Obviously he tried to resist, but his broken arm didn't allow him to resist. Both fairies just watched as the blonde was taken away. Sergei, what a couple, don't you think? Boris, no comments. The fairies just continued on their way as if they had seen nothing. Room 1 Degree B. The 2 young men arrived at their classroom in a normal way. Issei still had his mouth covered and was being held by his arm. They went to their places and finally Rias removed her hand from Issei's mouth and let go of his arm. Issei, this? Rias, why did you do that? Rias, well the truth is it was inertia. I would be embarrassed if I knew you were staying at my house. Issei, well, I don't see anything shameful about it. They continued talking about why they should and should not feel ashamed of telling that little truth. They continued with that until they saw a certain black-haired friend arrive. Issei, oh hello Akeno. Akeno just ignored him. Issei, you're still mad at me because I didn't agree to live with you. She just moved her head up and down. Issei, come on Akeno, I already told you why I couldn't go live with you. She just kept ignoring him. Issei, I better not try it anymore. The blonde boy preferred to lie down for a moment on his bench to rest a bit, but that little break ended when his teacher arrived and proceeded to take attendance. Issei, PSS, hey Rias. Rias, what's up? Issei, have you ever wondered why they never say our last names? Rias, I really don't know. Classes started normally. During all that time when the teacher changed, Issei tried to talk to Akeno, who continued to ignore him. Break time. He and his classmates decided to go to the club since it was quiet there. They would rest for a while, as after the break they would have class in the academy's lab. At this point, everyone was sitting quietly. After a while, Sona and Tsubaki arrived and sat down as well. It wasn't long before the new club members walked through the door. S&B, hi guys. Everyone, hello? Issei, so you guys also have a break at this time? Sergei, yes, and it was Boris's idea to come here. I'm not complaining. It seems that it's quiet here. Everyone remained silent. Some just moved their hands a little. Boris took out a book and proceeded to read it in his mind. Issei, well now what? Sergei, I don't know, you're the president of the club, so you shouldn't have any group activities. Issei, I really don't have anything in you. Rias, do you have any ideas? Rias, none, sorry. Issei, Akeno, you have an idea. She just looked away. Issei, I'll take that as a no. You have some Sona. Sona, nothing. Issei looked at Tsubaki clearly, asking if she had any ideas. She just shook her head. Issei, in that case someone said something. even if it's a board game. Boris closed his book with some force which caught the attention of the others. Boris, now that I remember, Issei, you were going to tell us why you are watching in Rias's house. Issei, true, I had already forgotten. Well, the reason why I live with her is because where I lived before she suffered a small problem. Boris, and that problem was? Issei, it was a small explanation prompted by Rias and Akeno. The named ones had different reactions. Rias covered her face in embarrassment, and Akeno just scratched her head remembering that. Issei, after that explosion the girls offered me to live with one of them. Boris, and why did you choose to live with Rias? Issei, well, at first I thought about going to live with Sona, but I remembered her sister. I have a deal with her which is that every time I see her I'm going to be subjected like a pure cosplay mannequin, while she takes pictures of me. That's why I didn't go with Sona. Boris, and Tsubaki. Issei, she lives with Sona so it's the same situation. Then Akeno offered me to live with her. At first I was going to accept, but I asked if there were any problems with any of her relatives. She only told me that her father was not there most of the time, which made me a bit tense. Imagine running into her father without having previously explained to her why there is a boy in her house, so I decided to reject Akeno's offer. Well, and that is also protection. Several times I have seen Akeno look at me with rapist eyes. Akeno just let out a small breath which came with a bit of anger. Boris, that led you to Rias, right? Issei, exactly, although of course there is only a small problem but it can be controlled well. Boris, what problem? Issei, well, Rias. What happens is that Issei-kun is afraid of my mother. Boris, and why are you afraid of him? Issei, as such, it's not fear because of her attitude, but rather fear because of her breasts. They are very big and that scares me too much. Boris, wait, you're afraid of women's breasts. Issei, I'm especially scared of those that are too big. Sona, but Issei-kun, if you are afraid of large mammary glands, because you look calm in front of my sister. Sergei, wait, Sona, why do you call breasts that? Sona, because that's what they're called. Issei, well, answering your question, Sona, hers weren't very big so she could have control in front of her. They continued talking about some meaningless topics until the bell rang, marking the end of the break. Last class, laboratory. Issei was accompanied by his two friends. They were dissecting a toad. Rias was watching the dissection in disgust. Akeno looked at the instructions on how to properly dissect the toad without hurting the specimen too much. And finally Issei was doing the dissection. He was quite focused. He didn't want to make any mistakes. Things went well until Akeno accidentally threw some chemicals that none of the boys knew how they got there. This caused a small explosion accompanied by a toxic cloud. Everyone ran away. They had to suspend classes as the small toxic cloud began to spread throughout the academy. On the way to Rias's house, Issei, I still don't understand how those chemicals got onto the table. Rias, I don't even know how they got there. They continued their walk until they reached the redhead's house. They entered and saw Rias's mother accompanied by someone else. They both noticed the presence of the young men and turned to look at them. The companion is a young man with reddish hair, a thin build, wearing a black suit which at first glance looked quite expensive. His facial complexions were somewhat similar to Rias's. Venelana, oh Rias, look who came. The redhead stood up and looked at Rias. Hello, little Rias. Smiling. Rias, Oni-chan. Rias ran towards the redhead and hugged him tightly. He hugged her back. They were like that for about 4 minutes until they separated. He looked at Issei. Thank you, young vampire, for protecting my sister from fallen angels. Issei, thank you very much, but no help. Not even because she's his sister. No problem. She's my friend and it bothered me a lot that they wanted to attack us. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Oh, sorry for not introducing myself. My name is Successor Gremory and as you heard I'm this dwarf's brother. Rias, hey, Issei, nice to meet you. My name is Issei Windsor. I also guess I should explain why I'm here. Successor, don't worry, I've already been informed that my clumsy sister and her friend blew up your apartment. But despite that, I didn't come here just to say hello. I came to ask you a favor. Issei, please? What kind of favor? Successor, well, if you remember correctly, you and Sona Citri took care of a human infected with demon flu. Issei, wait a minute, how do you know that? Successor, well, who do you think made sure that the woman was taken to treat her problem? Issei, I'll continue your explanation. Successor, well, the favor I want to ask, not only of you, but also of the members of your club, and before you ask, let me explain what ideas you have in your club. I continue. What I want you to do is hunt down a wandering demon. Issei, a wandering demon, what is that? Successor, as the name suggests, A wandering demon is one who left the clan to which he belongs and decides to go out to the human world to hunt humans. They normally eat them. But well, now that I explain it, I'm going to tell you that right now there is a wandering demon in the city. I want you to capture him and send him to the underworld. Issei. Well, if the demon feeds on humans, in that case you can count on us to come look for him. Sirs, thank you, I'm counting on you. My mother has already authorized Rias to accompany you, so you'll have all the help from your club. Without further ado, I'm leaving. I still have work to do. Rias, Oni-chan, were you able to get the music CD I asked for? Sirs, I don't hear anything. I'm leaving now. Sirs disappeared into a magic circle, leaving an upset Rias. Rias, bad, it's always the same. While Rias was complaining, Issei was looking at his contacts on his cell phone to call the others and explain what happened, but there was a small problem. Issei, I forgot to ask the dwarves for their phone number. After locating the fairies and gathering the members, 10 p.m. at the park. The boys gathered at the park. Everyone already knew about the situation, so they all decided to put on sportswear. Sergei, and well, how does our lucky demon look? Issei, now that I don't think about it, he didn't tell her what it looked like, or at least the area to search. Sergei, wait, you called us and you don't know what he looks like. How are we going to know if he's a wandering demon? And we don't even know where to look for him. Issei, don't worry, we'll find him. How long can it take? 11 p.m. Sona, they see something unusual. Boris, nothing. Tsubaki, I see a drunk, that counts. 12 p.m. Akeno, this is getting boring. 1 a.m. Sergei, at least someone brought something to eat. Everyone denied it. Sergei, great. 2 a.m. Everyone was already tired. They couldn't find anything. At this point Rias was already asleep. Sergei and Boris were sensitive to any noise. Akeno and Tsubaki were playing with their cell phones, and finally Issei and Sona were still searching by sight, sound and aura for the demon, but of course they were already falling asleep. They would have fallen asleep if it weren't for a small cry of pain in the distance. Issei, do you think it's our demon, Sona? Sona, I hope so, I'm already sleepy. Sergei and Boris tensed up at the small scream. Sergei went to wake Rias up, and Boris went to tell Akeno and Tsubaki to go to the place where the scream was coming from. The boys wasted no time and went to the place where the scream came from. This led them to a junkyard. They prepared to enter the yard, alert for any sign of movement. Issei, Tenant, do you detect anything? Tenant, honestly, I didn't detect anything. It's not the same as being inside someone and feeling something. At these times, you'll have to seek out their presence. They all arrived at a fairly large, clear area, quite convenient if you ask. Alerted by the sound of walking behind them, they all turned around instantly to find only a small cat. Sergei, a cat? Is this a demon? I thought it would be bigger. At that moment someone too big fell behind them. This one was the devil. Issei, you had to talk. In front of them was the demon they had to hunt. His appearance was the one described in the Bible. Large, red-skinned, and horned. He only wore pants, although they had protection. He looked at the boys strangely. Demon, they really sent some kids to capture me, don't make me laugh. Everyone looked at him, attentive to any movement. Rias hid behind Issei. Sergei and Boris backed away since they know they can't against him. At least not hand to hand. Akeno, Sona and Tsubaki were ready to attack the demon. At the slightest movement they would attack. But Issei was the most serious. He knew that at this moment, he couldn't fight hand to hand because of his broken arm. His only way to fight would be with the spears of light, the whips of the apocalypse and electrical magic. Demon, well, they have something to say. Issei, just one attack. At that moment Issei threw a spear of light at his arm. It hit him full on. Sona, without wasting time, threw ice stakes at his legs. These only damaged the protections they had. Akeno prepared to paralyze him with some rays. The problem was that Akeno's rays were not enough to paralyze him. He managed to move without any problem and began to charge against the boys. They all dodged at the last moment. The demon turned back to attack them again, but as he headed that way he hit a body which Boris threw. He managed to hold said body, but roots began to sprout from the ground which began to hold the legs of this one. The one responsible for this was Sergei. Sergei, Boris, the scrap. Without wasting time he set out to lift all the scrap that was around, formed a sphere of pure scrap and threw it at them. But although his legs are attached to roots and he is carrying a body, he could stop the sphere of pure scrap. Now he showed an annoyed look. He returned the ball of scrap to Boris, who could barely dodge. The demon in a quick movement got out of the roots and approached the two fairies. He used the body like a bat, and with it hit the fairies which were thrown into one of the mounds of scrap. He began to approach the two boys but had to cover himself since he began to receive a small rain of spears of light which came out of several portals around his body. Those responsible for this were Issei and Tsubaki. Issei threw the spears at Tsubaki, and this through a portal finished them sent the demon in different positions. He realized this and through the body he had. It was going in the direction of Tsubaki, who with one of her hands created another portal and ended up returning said body which hit the demon's head. Tsubaki finished creating portals and looked at Akeno and Sona. Tsubaki, ready. They nodded, and without wasting time Tsubaki sent herself into a portal. She appeared above the demon and kicked him with magic. He tried to hold her but she went back into one of his portals. This caused the demon to leave his back exposed. Sona took advantage of that. She went at full speed and hit him in the back. First it was with her hand wrapped in magic, then she created an ice club and hit him again in the back. The demon turned around to hit Sona but he received an electric shock from Akeno. She took advantage of the fact that the electric shock had left him somewhat paralyzed and prepared to punch him along with a lightning bolt. Tsubaki reappeared and kicked him again in the face. He got angry again but received another blow to the back and an electric shock again. Tsubaki repeated the process but this time her leg was grabbed. The demon proceeded to smash her into the ground. Sona immediately went to help her friend. Sona had no time to react. She was hit with Tsubaki's body. Both were thrown into a wall. They ended up embedded. Akeno saw all this and without thinking she threw herself at the demon but received a blow from it which ended up sending her a few meters back. The demon took out a metal rod. It planned to pierce Akeno. Issei saw this. He told Rias to save herself. Issei summoned one of the whips of the apocalypse and grabbed it and threw it in Akeno's direction. Issei managed to push Akeno away but this caused Issei to receive the metal rod. It pierced his broken arm which caused him a lot of pain. This did not go unnoticed by a certain redhead. She saw how her arm was pierced which provoked her anger. She began to expel a large amount of magic. She launched herself at the demon and hit him in the face. This left the demon surprised since the blow he received almost finished knocking him down. Rias without wasting time began to throw several blows at the great demon. Each blow was charged with that reddish energy, several of which she could not block. After a while Rias ended up knocking down the demon but she kept hitting him. Each hit began to tear the demon's skin. Without finishing Rias grabbed one of his horns and with it began to whip his head with so much force that she ended up tearing off the horn. She wanted to continue but was stopped by an Issei surrounded by that dark aura. Issei, Rias, calm down, you're done. Rias looked at him for a long time. Her reddish aura began to fade. The moment it finished fading she hugged him tightly. She just decided to remain silent. Issei, Rias is over, now we can go rest. From the rubble came Sergei and Boris with wounds in their abdomen. From the wall came Sona and Tsubaki. The latter was helped by Sona to be able to walk and Akeno got up with a small trickle of blood from her mouth and a bruise on the side of her face. Sergei, and now what? Sona, I'll take care of that. Sona took some blood and placed it in a container of ice. She stared at the blood on her hand for a moment, and it began to bubble. Sona, good. Sona, if I wanted to be contacted with the cruise ship demons. Sona, I'm fine, just contact me. Sona, they put me on hold. The fairies and Issei looked at each other in confusion. Sona, hello? Sona, if I wanted to report a wandering demon. Sona, yes, it's a demon, a big red one with horns. Sona, okay. Sona returned the blood to the floor and cleaned the container. Issei, hey Sona, what did you do? Sona, I made a call to the underworld. Issei, and blood was necessary. Sona, no, but this one gives a better signal. But well, we can go now, they'll come for him. Rias, I left him hurt enough for him to get up. Issei, understood Rias, we have to go. Rias released Issei and nodded. Everyone except Issei had two thoughts in their mind. The first was how they were going to explain the injuries they had, and the second was to ask what Issei did to create the dark whip that he used to launch himself. But that will be for another day. They are tired and a long talk awaits them at home. Chapter 9. What happened? The teenagers were heading back to their homes. They had used a magic circle to get there faster, but of course, they risked being discovered by their parents. However, for Issei and Rias, it wasn't a problem since Rias's mother already knew about the job. Akeno was the first to separate from the group since her house wasn't that far away. Akeno followed her usual route when she returns from school. She was a little sore, but of course she knew that was nothing compared to Tsubaki, who was the one who received the most damage. Despite not having many injuries, it took her a while to get home. But unlike the time she brought Issei to her house to be healed, she slept in the room where she was supposed to sleep. Normally she didn't sleep at home. she still had to climb several steps since she slept in a temple near her house. The reason why she didn't sleep at home was only one, and that was her father. She was already at the door of the temple. It didn't take long to enter. Everything was dark. She didn't want to turn on any light in the main room of the temple in case her father was awake and looking at the light in the distance. But that went to waste when the room lit up and a man could be seen sitting next to the light switch. "Daughter, where did you go?" asked the man who was Akeno's father. "Akeno, I just went out with some Betrayal friends." "Betrayal? So then because you have some bruises." "Akeno, I fell when I was coming to the temple." She simply set out to go deeper into the temple. "Betrayal, daughter, don't be angry. I'm only worried about you." "Akeno, just like you worried when I was about to die." "Betrayal, daughter, you knew it was dangerous to go with your mother. I didn't think you were capable of exposing yourself like that." "Akeno, I exposed myself like that because I wanted to see my mother. I haven't seen her in a while. If you cared about me, you would let me see my mother's size. If it weren't for Rias's family, I would most likely be dead." "Betrayal, but at what price? You became a demon." "Akeno, I'd rather be a demon than what I was before." Betrayal remained silent for a while. A small gesture of pain could be seen on his face. "Akeno, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to sleep." Akeno went to her room, leaving Betrayal in the living room. He just stared in the direction his daughter was heading. He sat down to think for a while. "Betrayal, sigh Akeno, I know it hurts you not to be able to see your mother, but you know it was the best thing to keep her safe from being attacked by the other inhabitants, or a fallen angel." Betrayal got up and headed to his room to rest. With the others, the next to separate were Sona and Tsubaki. They lived together, so there was no problem with them going to her house together. Once inside the house, they decided to enter through a window, although it was more difficult for Tsubaki to enter. "Tsubaki, I'm sure they're all asleep." Sona, "Yes, don't worry, there's no problem turning on the light." Sona turned on the light, and well. Seraphal, "Hello girls." Tsubaki, "Yes, everyone is asleep. Calm down Sona, I believe you." Sona, "Shit." Seraphal, "Language, well, just to be as fast as possible. What were they doing?" Sona, "Well, to be honest, we were looking for a wandering demon." Seraphal, "And why?" Sona, "Because Issei asked us for help. He told us that Rias's brother asked him to look for a wandering demon, and so did we. Of course Rias, Akeno and 2 other boys." Seraphal, "2 more, wow, it seems they've made more friends." Sona, "She only cares about that. So Rias's brother." Everyone in the room shuddered at just that phrase. A woman's lifeless voice. The girls knew who it belonged to. Sona, mother. Sona's mother, a tall woman, wore a blue dress, black hair, violet eyes. It was like seeing an adult Sona, of course with the difference that her mother had a prominent chest of normal size. Sona, "Well, I think I'm going to pay him a visit." She had a rather serious look. Without wasting time, she went in a magic circle. Tsubaki, "Hey Sona, do you think that?" Sona, "Yes, Rias will no longer have a brother." Seraphal, "Well, can you tell me who the other 2 boys are?" Sona, "Of course, they are called Sergei and Boris, both very separated from Issei and Rias. Now they were heading home. Sergei lived further away than Boris, so he would stay alone for a moment. Sergei, "Well Boris, I'll leave you here. Now I just want to rest." Boris, "Sure, see you tomorrow." Sergei left Boris alone. He looked around to see if anyone was watching him. When he saw that there was no one there, he proceeded to rise up to be able to enter his room directly through the window. He entered silently. Without wasting time, he ran out of his room towards the bathroom. Boris, "Ugh, if they knew that I lost a bit of concentration during the fight with the demon because I wanted to go to the bathroom. I don't know what they would say to me." Boris finished and started to leave the bathroom. When he left, he felt like going to the bathroom again, but not because he wanted to, but because his father was standing in front of him. "Boris, I can explain." Boris, "Son, again with your jokes, sorry, but this time I won't fall for it." His father walked past him and into the bathroom. Boris was petrified by the scare he got from seeing his father. He was grateful that he thought it was a joke. Of course, if it had been his mother, he would probably have been grounded for life. With Sergei, he did the same thing as his friend, flying through the window. But the problem was that he was in his parents' room. Sergei just turned to see his parents, who were still asleep. He just went to the door and calmly left the room. He entered his room. At that moment, he went to a nightstand he had in his room. On that table there was a box. He just picked it up and looked at it with a smile. "Sergei, it was a good idea to give my parents these sleeping pills, well, to sleep." Sergei placed the box on the table and proceeded to go to sleep. Rias and Issei were already arriving at their house. Of course the light was on, but they didn't care. They entered through the main door and were greeted by Rias's mother. Venelana, the children have arrived, and how well they did. Venelana remained silent when she saw Issei. His arm was bleeding, the wound was a little dirty, which worried the woman more. She looked at her daughter, although of course she didn't worry as much with her since she had no wounds, she was only stained with blood. Venelana, Rias, hurry up and go to one of the drawers to see if there are any phoenix tears. Rias, yes. She ran off in search of the object. Venelana, damn, Issei, what happened? Issei, well, what happened was that I prevented Akeno from being impaled by an iron thrown by the wandering demon, and this happened. Venelana, at least it seems that at first glance there doesn't seem to be a risk of infection, so it will be easy to cure. I would be worried if the demon who threw that iron was a red one. Both young men looked at each other nervously for a moment, which caught Venelana's attention. Venelana, why do you look nervous? Wait a minute, the demon you went to capture was a demon. Issei, yeah. Venelana, damn coincidences. Issei, what? Is there something wrong with it being red? Venelana, in fact, yes, the red demons or venenum damnationum, poison of the damned, impregnate a very discreet poison in the metal. This poison is hidden in the body and after a while it kills the individual slowly. Issei and Rias were scared by that little bit of information. Venelana, don't worry, the poison is slow, so we have enough time to heal you. Issei, really? Venelana, yes, I just need a phoenix tear and that will be enough, just let me find it. Venelana went to search through the drawers. She spent a few minutes searching for the phoenix tear, but as expected. Venelana, great, I don't have, well in that case we'll have to go to the underworld. Issei, what, but how? Venelana, with this. Venelana took a small white marble out of her pocket. Venelana, a pearl from heaven, we will use it to travel to the underworld. There are other ways to travel, but this is the fastest. Yes, it is for one use only, so hold on to me. The boys held on to Venelana. Rias didn't know why her mother wanted to heal Issei with a phoenix tear, but she didn't ask since Issei would be better for the blonde. That's what she thought. Venelana proceeded to stare at the pearl. She closed her hand, and at that moment the three of them were surrounded by a white smoke which in a short time began to spin with surprising speed. Only the white smoke could be seen. After 3 seconds the smoke quickly dispersed, only now they were in another room. Issei, did it work? Venelana, yes. Venelana went to one of the drawers there and took out a small jar. Venelana, well, always if I had one saved. Venelana gave the bottle to Issei and he looked at it curiously. Venelana, just take it. Issei took it, and in just a second his arm was back to normal as if it had never been hit or pierced. Issei, wow, I need one of those. Venelana, well children, taking advantage of the fact that we are here, I am going to visit your brother Rias, then we will return to the human world by one of the methods there are to leave. Issei, well in that case we'll wait. Venelana, yes, okay, guys, I'll leave you for a moment. Venelana left the building, leaving both young men alone. Rias turned around and headed to a window. Rias, please, I hope to be here. She looked out the window and returned her gaze to Issei with a smile. Rias, come. Rias and Issei left through a door that was there. A big surprise for Issei, since outside there was a field of very beautiful flowers. The entire field was surrounded by trees which gave the place a more beautiful appearance. He understood that they would go to the underworld, but this seemed to be more of a sky garden. Issei, wow, this doesn't feel like the underworld, it feels more like heaven. Rias, well, it is to be expected, we are on the surface of the underworld. If we go deeper into the underworld now it will look the same as described. Issei, well, that makes sense. Rias just looked happily at the garden. Rias, we always came here with my mother. When I was just a child at that time she was a demon king and sometimes she escapes from her duties to spend time with her family, of course. Later she was able to spend more time thanks to the fact that she passed the title of demon king to someone else. Issei, I imagine they came here more often after that. Rias, we actually only come here on vacation. She decided to go to the human world to have a quiet life, and I'm not complaining. She's done a lot of things for me, like protecting me from an arranged marriage. Issei, so they wanted to force you into a marriage. Obviously any mother would do anything possible to cancel something like that. Rias, I still remember that day. The faces they had were quite funny. It scared them so much. She let out a small laugh, turning to look at Issei with a rather big smile. Rias, well, what do you think if we take a little walk in the garden? Issei, sounds good to me. They began to walk through the garden quite calmly. They found several species of very strange but beautiful flowers in the garden. The atmosphere was peaceful, except for a small noise in the distance. Issei, did you hear that? Rias, yes, it was an explosion, but it's too far from here. Another explosion was heard, still too far from their position. Rias, It's more than clear that that's not good. Issei, I'll send a clone to investigate. Within seconds, a second Issei detached himself from the first and took flight in the direction of the sound. Within 2 minutes, the clone returned, touched the original's hand, and he disappeared. From the worried expression on Issei's face, it was clear he didn't like what he saw. Issei, we have to go as fast as possible. He spread his wings and flew as fast as he could to the location of the farms, Rias following behind him. They flew off as fast as they could. Chapter 10. Thank you. 16 years ago. In the countryside there was a small country house. In it a young woman with brown hair looked out the window. The woman rested calmly on her arm until she paid attention to the door. In it was a redhead, young at first glance, blue eyes. He had a small beard. Hello Xiaticus. Xiaticus. Hello Venelana. How are you feeling? Venelana. Don't worry, these days have been very peaceful. The council is no longer bothering us. They no longer suspect our relationship. They think we are a united couple. Xiaticus. Better, one less problem. I can't imagine how the council would react if they found out who your husband is. Venelana. I hope they never find out. Xiaticus. Speaking of him, he asked me to give you this. The redhead handed an envelope to the brunette who didn't hesitate to open it, looked at the paper carefully, and in a blink of an eye, the young woman ran to her closet and began looking for clothes to wear for the occasion. Xiaticus. I think I'd better give you some privacy. The redhead left the room, walked through the corridors of the house until he reached his room, sat on the bed and then took a photo. In it you could see a woman with black hair, violet eyes, voluptuous body. In the photo the woman was wearing a black dress. In the photo she had a big smile reflected. Xiaticus. Well, Venelana is going on a date, and so am I. The man kisses the photo. I'm going with you, my beautiful Maleviatin. So affectionate at this time, on Friday. The redhead was a little scared by the voice only to see another young redhead, blue eyes, similar to him only in those features. Xiaticus. Sirzex, don't scare me like that. Sirzex. I'm sorry, but it's not every day I see you kissing your wife's picture. By the way, what is my mother doing that she heard a lot of movement? Xiaticus. She's looking for something to wear. She's going on a date with your father. Sirzex. Great. More house for me because I imagine you'll go with your wife. Xiaticus. That's right. Sirzex. Good house so. Sirzex. I hope you're ready to leave. We're going to see my parents. Sirzex. Hey, but my love, weren't we going to go tomorrow? You have plans tomorrow, so we're going to go today. Come here right now, if not. Sirzex. I'm coming, Grafia. The young redhead ran to put on something formal. In less than 2 seconds the redhead was already with his wife to go with her. Grafia. Good thing you came down quickly, dear. Xiaticus was left alone in his room. He heard the couple leave through a magic circle. Xiaticus. Well, I'm leaving anyway. Just like the couple, he left through a magic circle, leaving Venelana alone in the house. Shortly after, Venelana left her room dressed in casual clothes since the dates she had with her husband were quite different from the usual ones. Venelana left the house and went straight to the field since there she asked him to wait. 5 minutes later, at that moment it started to get windy. Several flowers started to rise a little, others started to bloom. Without wasting time Venelana looked behind her and there was her husband, a young man, a little taller than her, red hair, blue eyes, thin, but you could see at first glance that his body was toned. Venelana, you're still a beautiful devil. Venelana gave a big smile when she saw her husband there, and in a short time she ran out to hug her husband. Venelana, and you Ajesvda are still my beautiful archangel. They gave each other a small, tender kiss, stopped hugging, and then held hands. List, Venelana, always. The young man nodded. At that moment he spread his wings. They were a single pair, but they had a peculiarity. They were not white, they were golden. On the edges of the feathers passed a small red aura which passed as if it were a small river. In small moments sometimes the wings gave a small pulse of golden light which gave a pleasant sensation of heat for Venelana. She hugged the archangel's neck and then he took her by the legs. She looked like a princess in that position. The archangel began to rise and looked at the sky and then a portal opened. Next stop Centaurus. Venelana, I wonder what the fauna of that galaxy is like. Both entered the portal and then appeared on a planet whose vegetation was pink. Its trees moved on their own in a calm manner. They looked like tentacles, but they were bark. The pair landed near one of the trees. The tree, sensing them, stopped moving for a moment only to then curiously move towards the pair. First he approached the archangel, who with a smile gave a small touch to the branch. From this branch began to sprout some purple leaves, but it looked as if a stream of water ran through the entire leaf. Then he approached Venelana. He just caressed the branch, and then saw how it began to caress her arm. After that the tree returned to its initial position and moved its branches again in a psychedelic way. They continued their walk, seeing animals similar to elephants, only these were much larger, even larger than a mammoth. But this creature had a peculiarity. Venelana, they look so cute, they look like stuffed animals. As the chestnut said, these had a lot of hair, but what made them look cute was the shape of their fur. It was round as if it had been cut and given a fluffy shape. They are quite peaceful, of course only if they see you as a threat. They continued their walk, heading towards a mountain. During their ascent they saw several insects of enormous size pass by, similar to bees, only not so much like an insect but with a face similar to a sheep. At the top of the mountain they could see a large river which ended in a lake. From there they could see the hairy elephants from a while ago, some delicate-looking birds with 6 wings, and swimming in the lake a kind of feline with a fin on its back, long hair on its face, and the tail also had a fin. There were 4 in total. The couple watched enchanted from the mountain. The archangel took Venelana's hand. She turned to look at him. You know, I was wondering when you were going to tell me you were pregnant. The archangel moved his hand a little and revealed that the brunette was hiding her pregnancy as an illusion. It was clear that she had been pregnant for about 6 months. With a smile he looked at the brunette, who was surprised for a moment, and then also put on a smile. Venelana, well, I wanted it to be a secret. The archangel laughed a little. Well, changing the subject, near this planet there is one that is pure ocean. If you want we can go for a walk there. Venelana, I would love to. Well then, let's go. The archangel was preparing to open a portal. He opened the portal, but it suddenly closed. The confused archangel just looked at the sky. Azrael, was it you? Azrael, I'm sorry to interrupt your date, Advent, but you're needed in heaven. Is it urgent? Azrael, yes. The archangel just bowed his head. The plans he had in mind had been ruined. The worst part is that I didn't ask how my son was. Venelana, calm down, darling, you go to heaven, don't worry. And about Surzex, he's been fine, he's become a bit of a wimp, that's all. The archangel smiled, placed his hand on his wife's shoulder, and she began to disappear. She was being returned to Earth. She waved goodbye and finally disappeared completely. I hope the call is serious, darling. The young archangel was walking through some corridors. He was heading to a specific room. He entered it to meet 2 other angels. One of them was a woman with blonde hair, young in anyone's eyes, slim body, well-defined curves and large breasts. The other was a man, blonde hair, slim body, fine facial features. Miguel, Gabriel, what happened? Gabriel, we have a problem with a species on Earth. Which? Michael, Nicomata. And exactly why did they call me? If they are Nicomatas, it is most likely that they are humans trying to get their tails to sell on the black market. Gabriel, that's the problem. They are not human, they are knights of hell. We don't know why, but they started attacking them. The young archangel at that moment put on a serious face. Where are they? Miguel, in Japan, near Kyoto, on the outskirts. The guardians protecting those Nicomatas were easily eliminated. Understood, I'll be right back. Japan, outskirts of Kyoto. In a small town on the outskirts of Kyoto, a massacre was taking place. Knights of Hell were destroying anyone who got in their way. Unfortunately, there was only a couple of Nicomatas left in the entire town. One is a man, black hair, 2 cat tails and feline ears. The second is a woman with white hair. Like the man, she had 2 tails and cat ears, only this girl had one more detail, and it was very visible. She was pregnant. Demon 1. It was easier than I thought. Who wants to take care of the couple? Demon 2. They didn't leave me any fun, so I'll take care of it. The infernal knight began to prepare a fireball with his fist. He prepared to throw it. He threw it, but it stopped immediately, and just as it stopped, it dissolved out of nowhere. Demon 2, what the buck? You know, it's your fault my date was ruined. The 6 knights who were there turned around with a look of fear, since that voice meant death to them. In front of them was the red-haired archangel. Well, who will be the first? One of the knights, out of fear, threw himself without thinking at the archangel, but he ended up on the ground halfway there. At first glance, it was clear that he was dead. Next up, the 5th knight prepared to shoot the archangel, but he began to turn to ash. 2 less. The remaining 4 launched themselves at the same time. They began to attack the archangel, but he only limited himself to dodging their blows. 2 of them launched themselves with a mass of darkness in their hands, but had no chance to get close to the archangel as they just turned into dust. There was only 1 left. You know, if you want, you can leave peacefully, or I stop talking to stop a blow from this demon. Well, option 2 will be it. At that moment he placed 2 fingers on the demon's head. It began to convulse. A golden light began to come out of its eyes and mouth, and then it became inert, and was released by the archangel. Well, you are safe now. I will take you to a... The archangel created a shield of light blocking a bullet of darkness. Damn, run to Kyoto, you will be safe there. I look in the direction where the bullet of darkness came from. There was a guy in a suit, young at first glance, brown hair with a small reddish touch. Alastair, the aforementioned smiled. Alastair, I didn't expect them to send an archangel. The demon got into a fighting pose. The archangel imitated him. Listen, escape. I'll keep him busy. What matters is that you're safe, especially that baby. Both Nicomedes nodded and started running towards Kyoto City to get to safety. Thank you, the woman said before leaving. Then Nicomedes left there. Once they were no longer there, the demon launched himself against the archangel. The young man threw a blow at the demon, but it split into two, one normal and the other into a shadow. What the hell? The boy received the blow from the two which was charged with darkness. He was thrown, breaking several trees in the process. He ended up embedded in a rock. Good, I felt that. He turns to his left for a moment, seeing both scared Nicomedes. Calm down, I have it under control. He came out of the rock to see Alastair in the distance preparing a bullet of darkness. The young angel, seeing this, made a small movement of his hand. The demon was about to shoot but was sent to the ground to be embedded. He tried to get up but it was impossible. It was as if gravity attracted him to the ground with a much greater force. In no time he felt his body light again. He lifted himself up a little to receive a kick to the chin, and shooed back to the town before. The young man jumped to reach the town, and in the air he made a sword of light to pierce the demon. Alastair recovered from the kick, saw the archangel with the sword, reacted in time to dodge it, rolled to his right and propelled himself with a small dark bullet to get further away. The young man noticed this, and before touching it he kicked the ground to go to Alastair's direction. The aforementioned created about 3 tentacles which rushed against the archangel. He was able to cut one, but the other 2 held him. One by the neck and the other by the arms, and then subdued him on the ground. Alastair rose and began to create a giant sphere of fire. Taking advantage of the fact that his opponent showed no signs of trying to break free, he threw the sphere. The sphere was traveling at a very slow speed, but it stopped dead in its tracks. Alastair didn't understand why it stopped, but he didn't have time to find an explanation since the sphere was heading towards him with too much force, and he barely dodged it. Alastair returned his gaze to the archangel, who was already free. The boy raised his hand and snapped his fingers. As he did so, the giant sphere of fire divided into smaller ones which went straight to Alastair. He covered himself with his tentacles of darkness, received the small spheres. The tentacles disappeared, showing the demon without a scratch. He descended and stared at the archangel. Both were still until shots were fired at each other. Alastair threw the first blow, which was deflected by the archangel. He threw a hook which was barely stopped by Alastair. He didn't have time to respond to the hook, as he was forced to stop a kick followed by a right hook which ended up pushing him away, creating a small cloud of dust. Alastair lowered his defense and saw how the archangel approached him quickly. To stop him, he put his hands on the ground, creating a wave of tentacles serving as a defense. But it was of no use, since the archangel dodged them too easily until he ended up in the center of all the tentacles. He raised his hand, and in a blink of an eye he created a flash of light from his hand which vanished the tentacles. Alastair, damn, it will be with the sword. This created a curved sword made of pure darkness and a shield to defend himself. The young archangel created daggers of light and ran straight to the demon. This attacked him with his curved sword, which was stopped by the 2 daggers, and then with his strength threw the sword away. Also one of the daggers, and attacked, but Alastair covered himself with his shield, causing the dagger to bounce, releasing it in the process. Taking advantage of that, Alastair put his hands on the ground, which cracked it, and then saw how fire was going to come out of the cracks. Before they came out, the archangel created another shield and placed it under him to avoid the fire. The fire came out and the shield received the entire load, which raised it a little. Taking advantage of his height, he jumped to attack again with his dagger. Alastair tried to cover himself but succeeded. He stuck the dagger in his right shoulder, and then was held and thrown into a rock which split it. With difficulty he began to get up, but as he stood up he felt a small pain. Looking down he saw a small light in his stomach. This alerted him, and he returned his gaze to his opponent. Just like I wanted, thank you for interrupting my date. Now allow me to return the favor. He began to move his hand in different directions. Every time he moved his hand in a direction, Alastair received a ray of light from that same direction. He was like that for about 5 minutes until he finally fell to the ground. The young archangel approached and lifted him up to look at him fixedly. Okay, now that we're calm, tell me why you attacked Nicomedes. Alastair just looked away with a smile. This didn't please the young man very much, so he buried his dagger again, and with a magic thread that was tied to the dagger he began to whip the demon. throwing him and bringing him back with the help of the thread. Okay, now tell me why kill Nicomedes. Alastair, there is Archangel ABXJJS, you have no idea what is coming. Explain yourself. Alastair, sorry, it will be another time. The reinforcements have already arrived. Hearing that, he turned around to face the reinforcements, but only saw black dust that clouded his vision. Unable to see, he spread his wings and used them to push the dust away, but there was no one there. Damn, he closed his eyes and then smiled. Well, at least they arrived safely. He looked at the ground for a moment, and saw a small sheet of paper on which something was written. He picked it up to just stare at it. Present, Underworld. In one of the forests of this place a chase was taking place. There were 10 demons chasing 2 people, a young woman with black hair. At first glance it was clear that she was in her teens, dressed in a black kimono. On her back she was carrying someone very scared, a little girl, white hair, dressed in a kimono, also only white. The most notable thing was that both had cat ears and tails. The black-haired girl ran as fast as she could, dodging different types of projectiles. They continued on the run until they were close to a ravine. They looked behind them and the demons had reached them. D1, damn cat, you'll pay for what you did to our master. D2, but first, it would be nice to have fun with their bodies. D3, hey no, I'm a demon but I don't touch girls. D2, you're such a party pooper, since when do you have morals? Those 2 demons began to argue among themselves, drawing the attention of the others, taking their eyes off the 2 young women. They just stood there with a confused expression. One moment they were being chased, the next they were watching them fight each other. After a while they stopped arguing, but not because of the 2 girls, but because of a sound. D1, what was that? D2, I think it comes from the ground. The demons looked down at them for a moment. It didn't seem like anything was going to happen. They looked up again, but out of nowhere one of them was lifted by some kind of dark tentacle which held the demon by the neck. More tentacles emerged from the ground which moved violently. The girls tensed up at this. The black-haired girl began to look at the ground with concern but only heard a voice. PSS, hey come on, we're going to get you out of here. Issei, do you think he's going to trust you? The blonde-haired boy who was holding on to the edge of the ravine looked at the girl again, who did not look convinced. Issei, if it helps, those tentacles are mine. That will keep them busy. Just come with my friend to help them. The brunette wasn't convinced, but she had nowhere to escape, so she had no other option. He lowered the little white-haired girl who was carried by the girl, and the black-haired boy was carried by the blonde man, and then both spread their wings. Issei, time to go, Rias. Both of them began to rise to fly away from the demons who were still with the tentacles. Issei, it was easier than I thought. Chapter 11 Family. After saving the 2 Nicomedes, the young people headed to Rias's country house. Of course, the oldest Nicomeda was not very relaxed. She was just hesitating. The 2 young men landed in the garden of the house, leaving the 2 Nicomedes on the ground. The little white-haired girl went to hug her sister, who greeted her with great joy. With her sister in her arms, the only question remained: who were the ones who saved them? Issei and Rias stood close to the Nicomedes as they talked to each other. Issei, Rias, do you think we have problems with your mother? Rias, I don't think so, Issei-kun. He probably even wants to hug them. And who should I hug? The 2 boys immediately turned around to see Rias's mother staring at them with her arms crossed. The Nicomedes were simply on alert. Venelana, so, what did you do, children? Issei, well, what's the question? Venelana, Rias, well, look this, we went to save these girls. Rias pointed at both Nicomedes, who hadn't separated. Venelana just looked at them curiously. It was clear they should be on their toes. She was a stranger, and they couldn't trust their saviors, who had only known them for minutes. Venelana approached the Nicomedes. The eldest placed her little sister behind her while she only peeked out a little. The reaction was to be expected. Venelana, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. The brunette woman sat down opposite both girls. The little white-haired girl began to lean forward a little more, her gaze filled with the curiosity of any child. When her sister tried to get closer, she wouldn't let her. She didn't feel like she was going to hurt them, but she couldn't trust herself. Venelana, it was to be expected, stands well. Come on, we will return to the human world. We will take the train to the underworld. As for you, looking at Issei and Rias who were nervous, Venelana, will you explain to me how you saved her? Without further ado, together with the Nicomedes who kept their distance, they went to the underworld train. Luckily, being a prestigious family, they were able to have a private car. For comfort and for the protection of the Nicomedes, Venelana considered that if they were saved while in the underworld, they would be looked for, and she wasn't going to risk it. 4 a.m., Saturday, Rias's house. After leaving the train, arriving home too late, and explaining to Rias's mother. They were wondering where the Nicomedes were going to sleep. Venelana, well, considering there was only one guest room, which is now Issei's room, I think they'll sleep in my room. Rias, this mom, and if it's better if they sleep in my room, I say this for convenience, girl and girl of the same age. Venelana, okay, but now it's time to sleep. Luckily for you it's Saturday, so everyone went to their room, Rias's room. She was looking forward to sleeping with the Nicomedes. Her mother gave her an inflatable mattress and blankets for the girls. The black-haired girl just stared around the room intently, still untrusting, but the white-haired girl looked around with a twinkle in her eyes until her gaze fell on a stuffed animal. Without realizing it, her sister and Rias went to where the stuffed animal was and took it. She looked at it in detail until she hugged it with great joy. Her sister and Rias realized that she had the stuffed animal when she got on the bed. Rias, my stuffed toy. How cute it looks. Nothing tender, let that go. Rias, don't leave her, consider it as a small gift. The white-haired girl was very happy. Thank you very much, miss. Although she was crying for the stuffed animal inside, it made her happy to see the little girl smiling. But her sister wasn't sure, which Rias noticed. Rias, hey, I understand that you don't trust us, but I assure you that you'll be safe with your sister, so let's make the introductions properly. Offering hand. Hello, I'm Rias Gremory, a student at Ko Academy. Nice to meet you. The brunette was hesitant to shake hands, but what does it matter? Well, my name is Kuroka Tuju, very much liked. My name is Chiron Tuju, nice to meet you, miss. Rias, well, with the introductions done, could you help me inflate the Kuroka mattress? Kuroka, of course, I need Chiron to rest well. Rias, if that's it, she can sleep in my bed. Kuroka, no, I prefer him to sleep with me. 8 a.m. Sunlight entered Rias's room through a small opening in the curtain, illuminating the room a little. It showed a white-haired girl sleeping peacefully in bed, hugging a stuffed animal. Rias and Kuroka were sleeping on their own sides on the inflatable mattress. The reason was easy. Chiron had already fallen asleep in bed. Venelana, guys, come have breakfast. Too tired, Kuroka, and then Rias got up. Kuroka looked to where her sister was to wake her up, giving her the signal that they had to eat. Dining room, 8:30. All the members of the house were at the table with their breakfast in front of them, each one with an extremely tired face, except Venelana. Venelana, how did you sleep, guys? Rias falls onto the table to fall asleep. Issei barely turns to look at Venelana. Kuroka and Chiron just staggered. Venelana, better than I thought. I honestly thought they weren't even going to get up. They could hardly eat. 11:25 a.m. A little more awake, everyone watched television calmly. The Nicomeda calmed down, looking a little more relaxed. A few minutes later, this tranquility was disturbed by the doorbell ringing. The one who got up to answer the door was Issei, who was in for a big surprise. Issei, Boris, Sergei, what are you doing here? No, how did you know where we lived? Boris, easy, we asked Akeno. In fact, she came with us. Hey, right? Where is she, Sergei? Sergei, I don't know if he was with us a moment ago. Issei, he's probably making a fetish of himself. Sergei, what fetish? Issei, well, she usually goes to somewhat hidden places to read her Sado mangas. Finish the word and I'll break your other arm. Issei froze, he started to turn pale. Behind him was Akeno. Issei, well, although what they say about her are rumors. Akeno, well, you guys slept well. Rias, oh, Akeno, nice to see you here. When did you come in? Akeno, your mom let me in when she was making breakfast. Issei, and where was he? Rias, what are you doing outside? Boris, Sergei, come in. Room 1147. The young people were on the couch, although both fairies looked curiously at the two Nicomedes just as they looked curiously at them. Chiron, your hair is blue and you're my height. Sergei, you have white hair and you grew a tail, how cute. Kuroka, hey, don't come near my sister, you pervert. Sergei was surprised by how the black-haired woman spoke to him, just complete silence. Rias, calm down, Kuroka, he's a friend, he's not going to do anything to your sister. Kuroka just looked seriously at the poor fairy. Boris, and guys, where are these Nicomedes from? Akeno and Sergei also looked at them with doubt, looking at each other with doubt, wondering with their eyes whether to tell them. In the end, Kuroka just nodded with her eyes. Issei, we rescued them in the underworld, they were escaping and we got them out of there. Boris, that must not have been very nice, and his parents. Kuroka dead. The black-haired girl only looked at her sister who was leaning on her. Boris, I think I'd better keep quiet. Sergei, but hey, now they are safe and with the possibility of living happily and most importantly with friends. In that case, shaking hands. Hello, my name is Sergei Popov and I am a fairy. Boris Sokolov, Nice to meet you, and I'm a fairy too. Akeno Himejima, and I am a demon. Issei, now that I realize I didn't introduce myself to you. I was so tired that I overlooked it, but it's never too late. Nice to meet you. I'm Issei Windsor and I'm a vampire. Boris, now let's go somewhere. Let's go out to the park the old-fashioned way, to the arcade, to a fair, anywhere. It's time for you to have fun anyway. Issei's going to pay. Issei, hey, don't abuse it. Sergey, but the man pays. Issei, and what are you? Boris, we don't count. Issei, of course not, and I have to put up with it. Akeno, and Issei, he would spend money, right? Issei, well, with you guys yes, but not with these dwarves. Sergey, hey, that's not fair. Akeno has boobs, so I would spend money on her. Akeno, hey, watch what you say, dwarf. Boris, hey, if you're going to hurt him, take these boxing gloves. Akeno, thank you. Rias, no, Akeno, calm down. Akeno was about to hit him, but a dark tentacle stopped her by lifting her up. Issei, calm down, Akeno. Sergey, hey, you must teach me that. Akeno in anger launched a ray at Issei and Sergey, but caused Issei in the movements that his body made to lose control of the tentacle and began to move Akeno in a violent way. Rias jumped to try to stop the tentacle with Boris. While Issei and Sergey were writhing, the Nikomatas looked at them, Chiron with a lot of laughter watching the scene, and Kuroka looked at that with a thought. Kuroka, maybe it would be good to try to get along with them. They saved us and their friends want to become part of that friendship too. Mrs. Venelana gave us a place to sleep, and most importantly, Chiron is happy. Okay, this is for you. It's time to move on. Kuroka jumped into the tentacle to help Rias and Boreas. But something interesting happened. She was having fun, while Chiron watched everything with a big smile. Chapter 12, Apparition. The boys, after finishing their scene at Rias's house and receiving a scolding from Venelana, went to the mall. There were two reasons. The first was to hang out with the Nikomatas so they would feel more confident with them, and the second was to buy clothes for them. Only now they were in the arcade as a way to relax while playing the games there. But there was a small problem. Issei, shitty game. Issei was in the lane-tight games. Luckily for him it was the slot games, but the idiot kept trying every time he lost. Tired of this, he was about to hit the game, but he didn't, thanks to Akeno who held his back to prevent him from destroying the device. Rias and Kuroka watched the fighting games with interest, and Chiron found several stuffed animals that Sergey and Boris had given her, which they won by cheating. Rias, you know how to handle this, right? Kuroka, no. After a while of waiting, Rias and Kuroka were ready to play. The only detail was that apparently Kuroka had never touched a game. Rias, look, I'm going to show you how to play. You'll see that it's easy. 30 minutes later. Rias, wait, Kuroka, let me breathe. That's right, Kuroka was beating Rias up right now. It didn't take long for her to understand how to play. The others just watched the beating Rias was receiving. Kuroka, this crap is so easy. Rias was like a stone looking at the machine screen now with an indicator waiting for a challenger. Issei, well, it's my turn. Calm down, Rias, I'm going to avenge you. He enters the card and looks at Kuroka. Ready? Kuroka, of course. 2 minutes later. Issei, hey, but that's legal. Issei lost. Sergey, it's time for you to see how to win the Mother Rush away. Kuroka, of course. Sergey, you'll see my playing ability. 1 minute later. Sergey, no to zie kren. Kuroka, well, Rias gave me more of a fight than you. Sergey, rot. Kuroka, who's next? Come on, don't be afraid. I follow. They turned to see whose voice it was, and to their surprise they saw two girls dressed casually, one wearing a dark blue sweatshirt and jeans, while her companion was wearing a black t-shirt and white pants. To their surprise, it was Sona and Tsubaki, Sona wearing the t-shirt and Tsubaki wearing the sweatshirt. Rias, Sona? I didn't expect to see you dressed like that one day. Sona, I like this style, it's very comfortable. Tsubaki, okay, quiet down now, it's my turn to beat. Kuroka, keep your comments to yourself, now play. Tsubaki, it's okay. Tsubaki entered her token, chose her characters, and the fight began. 4 minutes later. Tsubaki, bang in your face hitch. Issei, no comments. Rias, Tsubaki, where did you learn the hidden movements? Tsubaki, it's a secret. Rias. As they began congratulating Tsubaki, Kuroka froze at the machine. She'd been beaten up at the game, and even though it was her first time playing, she didn't expect to lose. She would have continued like this if it weren't for her sister tugging at her sleeve. Chiron, you were amazing, sister, congratulations. Kuroka, thank you, Chiron. She hugged her sister and took her hand to go with the other kids. She left her sister next to Rias and looked seriously at Tsubaki. Tsubaki also looked at her seriously before walking towards Kuroka. They stood still for a minute until they both held hands and smiled. Tsubaki, congratulations, you gave me a good fight. Where did you learn to play? Kuroka, well, I just started playing. Tsubaki, if that's true, you'll most likely be a very difficult opponent to beat. What's your name? Kuroka, my name is Kuroka. Tsubaki, nice to meet you Kuroka, let me introduce myself. I'm Tsubaki Shinra. I hope we can be friends. Kuroka, same here. They began to talk about trivial topics while the others watched the conversation in silence. Issei took Chiron's hand and they left there, leaving the two girls talking while they would go to a clothing store with Sona's company. Some nice clothes for the little Nakomata and maybe for Kuroka. 30 minutes later, outside the premises, with the bags of clothes already carried by Issei, Sergei and Boris headed to the entrance but stopped because in front of them was Kuroka and Tsubaki at the exit. Only Kuroka didn't look very happy with them. Kuroka, why did you leave me alone? Boris, well, technically you weren't alone. Kuroka, I hope you took good care of Chiron. Issei, if you want you can take her. Issei stepped aside, revealing Rias carrying a sleeping Chiron. Kuroka, seeing this, seemed to change her attitude and went straight to pick up her sister to carry her as her baby, heading in the direction of Rias's house, followed by everyone. Sona, hey Rias, where did you meet these girls? Rias, well, it's a somewhat delicate subject, I'll tell you later. Sona, it's okay. Another 30 minutes later, everyone was already back at Rias's house. Issei brought the keys, took them out of his pocket, and opened the door. Rias, Mom, we're back. Oh sister, guys, nice to see you. I was looking for you. Sergei, hey Issei, was he the one who left the demon's order? Issei, that's right. Sergei, I see, go buck yourself, son of a hitch, who would send teenagers to fight a demon. Sergei rolled up his sleeves and was already determined to hit him. But he didn't make any progress because Issei was carrying him as if he were a small child. Well, only in height does he look like a child. Serzex, well, I expected a more violent reaction, but it's okay. Interestingly, Sono and Tsubaki did not seem nervous even though Kuroka and Chiron were present. Serzex, well, changing the subject, looking at Kuroka and Chiron, where do those Nakomatas come from? Now everyone tensed up, especially those mentioned above. To add to this, he approached the girls but couldn't get any closer because something pulled him, sending him into a chair. The person responsible for this was Venelana. Venelana, idiot, don't you see that you scare them away? Serzex, yes, Mom. Venelana, I hope it doesn't happen again. She looks at the kids who were still nervous. Okay, little ones, come in, the food is ready. Your friends are also invited. No problem for me. Without further ado, Venelana turned around, followed by Serzex, who was looking down. After a while, everyone came out of their nervousness and began to enter one by one. Finally, Kuroka was about to enter, but was stopped by Tsubaki. Tsubaki, so a Nakomata, how curious. Kuroka, surprise. Tsubaki, you know I'm a demon, so this doesn't surprise me, let's become friends. Kuroka, sure. Now everyone was inside and each one in a corresponding seat, highlighting that Sergei was still looking at Serzex in a threatening manner. 7 p.m. Both fairies had already left, leaving Issei alone with the other girls. But now they were discussing a curious topic. Issei, let's see if I understand. You want to send us to hunt a ghost? Serzex, yes. Issei, and he's already hurt someone. Serzex, yes. Issei, if you know that literally a few hours ago I had my arm broken. Serzex, but now it's okay, so you won't have any problems. Issei, no thanks, I'd rather not break my arm again. Serzex, I'll pay you. Issei, Tenant, are you awake? Tenant, of course. Issei, what do you think about this? Tenant, I think you should accept it. With the money I pay you, you could pay again for the apartment your friends destroyed. Issei, good idea, thanks. Tenant, nothing. Issei, fine Serzex, I accept. Serzex, perfect, then get ready to not sleep all night and take the Nakomata with you. Issei, Serzex, believe me, it will help you a lot. Without further ado, I'm leaving. Kuroka, wait, I didn't even accept. Serzex disappeared without caring what Kuroka said, leaving her looking at the redhead's place, while Issei carefully approached her side. Issei, would you please join us? Kuroka, PFF okay. Tsubaki, great, and my body still hurts because of the other demon. Issei, come on, what problem can a ghost give us? Sona, Issei, better shut up. Issei, come on, it could go wrong, and we have to take advantage of the fact that Venelana isn't here to stop us. 3 a.m. Co Park. Issei, that son of a hitch didn't say where to find the target again, and if they were again late at night looking for a ghost. Sona, I just hope it's not strong. Kuroka, and I wanted to stay and they heard. Rias, what thing? Steps. Everyone went on alert and hid as quickly as they could. Issei, fine, I'll go out and distract him and you guys will attack him. Rias, but. Issei jumped into some bushes to more carefully approach the area where the steps were. Cautiously he came out of his hiding place and got a big surprise. It was just a stray dog. Issei, hey hello doggy. The dog turned around and ran away from there. If only it was just an ordinary dog. Issei, damn, and I thought we had already found it. Hello? Issei took a big leap back from the scare he received, only to find it passed since the person who spoke to him was a girl dressed casually. Issei, ugh, sorry I got scared. Wait a minute, a girl at this time of night. It's more than clear that it's him. Issei just stared at the girl who began to feel uncomfortable, but that began to change because of her look, which was one of absolute fear. Issei didn't understand this until he turned around and looked at what he was looking for. Issei, great, what was missing? That's how what he was looking for appeared. The moment they locked eyes, the ghost revealed a scythe and stood guard. Issei would fight if only he didn't have someone behind him. Without further ado, he grabbed the girl and leaped high, giving the signal to attack, which was seen by the others. Sona, there it is, attack. They all released a great amount of power. Akeno with her lightning, Rias with her demonic power, Tsubaki and Sona with ice, and Kuroka with a kind of blue fire. They were attacking for about 2 minutes to stop the attack. They all looked expectantly, but in that the apparition came out as if nothing had happened to her. Going at great speed, she went straight for Issei, who was still protecting the girl. Without further ado, she threw a punch at the ghost, but it went through him. She had to duck to avoid the scythe which grazed her head. With no other choice, she had to take the girl again and go with her companions. Issei, any idea how to defeat that? Sona, none. Akeno, it would be best to retreat before he kills us. Issei, I understand, there's just a small problem. Girls, which one? Issei, the girl fainted. Now if there are problems, they don't know the girl, they don't know where she lives, the only thing left for them is to take her with them. Without further ado, they were preparing to escape, but not before ducking because of some attacks from the ghosts. They turned to see her and saw that she was summoning purple masses. One of those masses began to increase in size. Issei, run! They all left as fast as they could, dodging the ghost's attacks. It will take a while to find a way to defeat that thing, but they will find it sooner or later.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.